Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, August 7th of 2024. This is a public hearing. I'd like to acknowledge we're meeting on the traditional lands of Sahoba First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. The statement of purpose. The public hearing is to consider the repealing and replacing Commercial Development District Improvement CDDI bylaw C-038-19. The purpose of this bylaw is to permit the phasing in over a period of up to 10 years of an increase in the taxable assessed value of certain commercial properties located in the municipality of the District of Yarmouth Commercial Development District, and to provide a partial rebate of taxes paid by the owner during this phasing in period. Is there any presentations from the gallery? Seeing none? Is there any written submissions, Madam CEO or recording clerk? Is there any council comments? Seeing none, I call this public hearing closed. Thank you, everyone. All right, I'm going to call the second public hearing meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, August 7th of 2024, and this is a public hearing. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional lands of Sahoba First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. The statement of purpose. Pursuant Section 51 of the Municipal Government Act, this public hearing is to consider the sale of the former Port Maitland Fog Alarm Building and land located at 3229 Main Shore Road, Port Maitland, Nova Scotia. The estimated value of the property is $26,000. The proposed purchase price is $1. The prospective purchaser is the Light of Hope Port Maitland Lighthouse Society, a duly incorporated society under the laws of the province of Nova Scotia. Is there any presentations regarding this public hearing from the public? Is there any written submissions by staff or to staff? Is there any councillors' comments? Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Council, since I expect that this will move forward, and I say thank you to everybody for their support, because I know this is something that the community has wanted, and they'll look forward to taking possession when we're ready to go. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Comments from staff? Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd just like to read into the record a little summary of the process to date. So on November 29th, 2023, Council passed a motion to declare the asset surplus and to divest the Port Maitland Fog Alarm Building under Section 51 of the Municipal Government Act. January 25th, 2024, a request for expressions of interest was issued. It was a two-step process. Number one, interested purchasers had to pre-qualify under the requirements of Section 51 as a registered not-for-profit. Once the pre-qualification round was completed, those who were qualified were invited to provide a proposal to Council on their vision for the property. That was set to close March 22nd, 2024, and an extension to April 17th, 2024 was granted. There was one bidder who submitted a proposal, and it was the Light of Hope Port Maitland Lighthouse Society. In May 2024, Council directed the CAO to negotiate with the bidder a purchase and sale agreement, and if terms could be agreed upon, come back to Council regarding a public hearing. On July 17th, 2024, council set the date for the public hearing under Section 51 of the MGA for August 7th, 2024, and we are at the public hearing. The next step in the process would be direction from council to proceed with the execution of the purchase and sale agreement.
Is there any more councillor or staff comments in regards to this? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wish to thank our CAO and staff for moving diligently on this matter.
Seeing no more comments, I call this meeting closed. All right, everyone, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Council was in camera at the start of this meeting. Item 5, land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging we're meeting on the traditional lands of Wassahoba First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Could we all rise for the singing of O Canada? O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all of us common, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free, from far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much, everyone. Item number 7, approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple. Can I add under old business street light for Bunkers Island?
Under old business,
Yeah.
so we'll make that 11.5, street light Bunkers Island.
Do you want to move that?
So you move that?
Yeah.
Motion on the floor to add, seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee, to add that as a item 11.5, street light on Bunkers Island. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Councillor, you still have the floor.
I'd like to move an addition under new business, Pleasant Valley Ball Field.
New business. Add that as 12.6, Pleasant Valley Ball Field, so you're moving that. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Thank you.
Just hold on a second. My writing is a lot slower than my speaking. I'm sorry, where's the street light again? Bunkers Island.
Yeah.
Councillor Hilton, you still have the floor.
And I'd like to move contract negotiation under the in-camera section in relation to an email sent last night.
All right, so you want to add an in-camera session for contract negotiations. There's 6 items there. I'd prefer to move that up and make that item 16.6 and move item 16.6 down to 16.7. So would you make that a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. A motion on the floor to add that as item 16.6. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yeah, I'd like to add to move the addition to the agenda, the Premier's visit to the airport, recent visit to the airport for discussion.
So you want to add that under new business?
Please, yeah.
So 12.7.
No, I don't think so. There's nothing, there's not that type of thing.
Okay, Deputy Warden makes that a motion. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Is there any more additions? If not, I'd entertain them. Oops. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our presenters 10.1 are not able to join us this evening, so we'll attempt to reschedule them, and so that item will not be on the agenda.
Yeah, can I have a motion to delete item 10.1 from the agenda? Moved by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton to delete item 10.1. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Is there any more additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Patty Durkee. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Nick Hilton. Motion on the floor to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 8, if there's any declarations of conflict of interest, please notify me as the chair, and I'll make sure that your name is recorded in the meeting minutes. Item number 9, approval of the minutes. You have one set of minutes in your package. I trust you all have read them over. Councillor Daniel Allen.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular council minutes for July 17th, 2024.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10, presentations. 10.1 was struck from the meeting. Move on to item 10.2. We have with us this evening the illustrious Frank Grant, Director of Recreation. I see his head swelling already, being called illustrious. Welcome, Frank. You have the floor. Deputy Warden, if you see me get up, if there's any questions, if I'm not here, please grab the chair if he gets through his presentation quick or if he drags it on. Go ahead, Frank. You have the floor.
Thank you, Warden Cunningham. Warden Cunningham, Municipal Council, CAO Brooks, and Municipal Clerk Porter. Thank you for allowing me to come and chat with you about recreation. It's been a very busy summer, and I guess it's probably been about a year since I've been before council to give an update on all the great things happening with the Recreation Department. Before I get into a brief presentation, I always like to start by thanking our hardworking staff within the Recreation Department. John Darcy, our facilities manager, is the person responsible for all of our recreation and sport facilities. And he does a great job with support of some seasonal staff to help him with all the preparations that we have for various events and activities that happen on our facilities. Jillian Camo, our community engagement officer, she is the frontline person dealing with all the customers and payments and bookings and scheduling, and the office would be upside down without Jillian. So Molly Spinney, our active living coordinator. Molly's busy driving our active living strategy and physical activity and trying to get people moving more, which we've known for quite some time that we need to move more in order to be active and more productive in our everyday lives. And last but not least, Matthew Smith, our community recreation coordinator, is the main person putting all of our programs year-round He's very busy right now with our summer program alignment, and I'll touch on some of those things in my presentation. So first off, I always like to give a little update on the budget, because yes, recreation does cost money. We have a number of programs and activities happening within our department, and we're after 4 months of operation, so we're a third of the way through our budget already. We are tracking very well on our summer program revenues. I had estimated an amount of summer program revenues at $61,500, so that's all the different activities that we're doing, whether it's day camps, special events, activities at Milo. And as of when this report was done, the actual amount in is $63,628. So we still have about 3 weeks of summer left, so I anticipate that amount to go up a little bit more. So, so we're happy with that revenue projection. And overall department expenses, and yes, we are heavy at this time with all the seasonal staff, so our overall department's expenses are tracking at $294,471, and with an estimate that our budget program gives an estimate of where we should be after 4 months, and that estimate should be around $339,913. So we're tracking on par with what our plans are for the year. Summer day camps, that's, you know, I think since our recreation department came into existence, that's what we're kind of known for, is our summer day camp program. So school gets out, and there's a little bit of a few days in between school getting out and Canada Day, and then summer activities happen. And we have, over the last couple of summers, we have tweaked our programs based on feedback that we do receive from our clients. And we have a number of camps happening this year. We have child day camps for ages 5 to 7, and averaging around 29 children per day. And they're based out of Meadowfields Community School. Youth day camps are Explore Sports Camp for ages 8 to 10, are at Maple Grove primarily, but they do have different activities around the community from time to time. And we're averaging 47 children, an average of 24 children in that camp per day. Teen day camps, so this is always a difficult age group to program for, is that 11 to 14 age group. We have an average of 10 taking part in the Get Out program, which is more of a nature-based activity, and roughly 13 per day taking part in bike and boat activities, which is based out of Lake Milo, and around 10 per day with the Girls' Day only activities. Recreation Adventure Camp is a big camp because every Friday is an adventure day. So all of the camps all come together every Friday, and they have a special event day. So we're always heavy on those days with about 35 to 36 children, and we could be at Port Maitland Beach, Ellenwood Park, Lake Milo, all around the community. And one of the more successful programs for youth has been our Leader in Training Camp. And we put this in place probably about 10 years ago because we started to see a lot of high school and university students not want to work with summer recreation. So we had to try to do some creative things, and this Leader in Training Camp helps with some younger folks, helps us out by having them help in our programs, learning what it takes to become a day camp leader, and doing some other training, first aid training, leadership training, and with the hopes that when youth go through our Leader in Training Camp, that someday they'll become a recreation staff person. And I think in our current complement of summer staff, I think there's 4 that went through the Leader in Training Camp. Programs and facilities, Switch Open Street is always a big event for the community. We shut down Main Street the last Sunday in July and August, and we have everything from sport and recreation to music to community organizations, various food vendors and all that sort of stuff. So July 28th event was very successful, and the next one is coming up on August 25th. Family Beach Day this year at Port Maitland Beach. We tried it a different date this year. We tried it on the actual holiday on Natal Day on August the 5th. We usually do it always on a Sunday. It was good weather on the Natal Day, and the activities were very well attended that we had planned with sand sculpting and beach volleyball and beach sweeps and dino digs and all that sort of stuff at Port Maitland. Our active living programs, or Make Your Move Yarmouth. Molly is leading various walks, including Wednesday walks, senior struts, croc walks, and all kinds of different themes. The general theme is that walking is the #1 physical activity by Canadians, and we're hoping that if someone is trying to get themselves into a better physical activity regimen, then walking is usually the first step in getting more physically active. I did want to mention that we do have a Hike Nova Scotia walking badge for Yarmouth that you can participate in by doing a series of walks, and as you go on, you would qualify to get a actual badge to show off to your friends for your accomplishments with all your walking or hiking that you do. And that's a program that's right across the province of Nova Scotia. And of course, with our facilities, we have a very busy lineup for keeping activities for Yarmouth Clippers soccer, Yarmouth Area Minor Baseball, our adult slow pitch league and recreational baseball league, and the Lake Milo Boat Club with canoe and kayak rentals and dragon boating and lifeguarded swimming and all kinds of different activities happening. Just a few other things to mention. The municipality is working on an active transportation plan, and tenders closed on August the 2nd. So we'll be reviewing the submissions very shortly. And this active transportation plan will set some priorities and ideas for future development around active transportation. Accessibility renovation plans for the Rotary Center are ongoing. And for those of you that have been up around the complex, we have done some work around the roadway into the complex. But the next step is our Rotary Center with some renovations to the building for making it more accessible at our entry points, and as well as the washroom and shower areas as well. Cricket. For those of you out and about, you may see some cricket action happening. We have partnered with our local newcomers organization, and we've helped them with some field bookings at Meadowfields Soccer Field, as well as Gateway Park and Tusket Field for cricket. So John Darcy and I met with the group, and we actually had some chances to try to hit the ball with a cricket bat, and I'm a baseball player. It's very difficult to hit a cricket ball when it's coming at you and bouncing at you. So it's hopefully it's something that we can. Right now, it's more of a drop in and play type of activity, and the group is very energized, and I can see that we probably will have some sort of a league emerging out of the interest for cricket. And I did want to mention that Nova Scotia Volunteer Awards, we usually have these celebrations in April, but Nova Scotia Volunteer Award ceremony is September the 18th in Truro, and our municipal volunteer representative this year is Wanda Doucette, and hopefully myself and the warden will be heading to the Rath Eastlink Center in Truro to attend those ceremonies. It's the 50th annual Nova Scotia Volunteer Award Ceremony. And the last I heard, Jonathan Torrens is going to be our host. So if you don't know who Jonathan Torrens is, he's, I guess, probably most famous from the Trailer Park Boys, J-Rock. So there's a shot of John and I with the cricket bunch there, and yeah, if there's any questions or comments, or I will do my best to answer them.
Before I open up the floor to comments, that cricket is one game that I must say that I never really understood, always wanted to try. And you're right, I do see the bouncing ball. I find it hard enough to hit a ball that's being pitched slow, like a softball, so.
So when they first contacted us, they wanted to play at Gateway Park. And in cricket, you can hit the ball backwards, sideways, forward, and from watching it on TV, you can hit it up to 250 feet in either direction. So if you're playing at Gateway Park, somewhere using second base as the pitching area, there's going to be balls bouncing off houses. So they have modified the sport, and a friend of mine who's Australian, who's played cricket, he told me when they modify the game of cricket, it's called tipsy. So they have a softer ball that, like if you really hit it, it might go 100 feet. So it's a variation ball that they use. So they don't use the full hard leather cricket ball to play at the school or in fields where there's lots of houses around or cars around.
Is there any modifications to our fields that would have to happen?
The only thing we've done for Meadowfields is there's a pitching area of about 18 feet long by about 3 feet wide that we're mowing a little bit shorter so they get a better regular bounce. But it's out of the field of play. So if soccer or ultimate frisbee is going there, it's not going to make a difference because it's kind of off on the sideline area where they're playing.
Do you have any information on when they are practicing? Or you can certainly
I
get,
know that-
I don't expect you to have it.
Yeah, I know they're playing-
Maybe I could send out an email to council.
Yeah.
Because maybe not only me.
Because everyone is welcome. If 40 people show up on a night, they will make sure everyone gets into the game. So I can share that. I know that I think it's Wednesday around to Sunday that they play. So a couple nights in Tusket, I think a night at Gateway and a night at Meadowfields.
Thank you for that. Turn over the floor to questions. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, you have the floor.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine years ago explained the game to me. It took a long time, and I mostly understood, I think, at the time, but I've long since forgotten. But yeah, my question was along the lines of our warden about the facility and how it's modified, our current facilities, our current fields. And how many people overall have an interest in cricket? Like, I mean, it's probably growing, obviously, but...
Joe is the main contact person, and he said one night they had 40 people show
Wow.
up. So you need a pitcher, or I guess a hurler, and a batter, and then the others go into the outfield area. So I think there's probably about 6 to 8 people playing at one time. But he just said they're playing modified games, so I assume they throw a few bowls, and if someone's batting for quite some time, they'll just switch it up and move another 8 people in. So he just said, tell everyone we want more people so that they can hopefully get to a point where, you know, we'll add it to our adult leagues. You know, we'll have recreational baseball leagues and minor baseball and slow pitch and a cricket league.
Awesome, okay. Thank you, Frank.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Frank. And I think we both know that the volunteer awards are special to me, and I think it's important to recognize the people that are giving in our community, giving of their time and energy. And Wanda is a great representation of that. And I congratulate her on her nomination as our one representative going to the provincial awards. I don't believe I'll be able to attend the volunteer awards at the end of September here in Yarmouth, so I just want to send my sincere appreciation to the group, and I'll probably send a few comments if you wouldn't mind sharing them with them.
Awesome,
Thanks.
for sure. Yeah, so the provincial ceremonies are on the 18th, and we always celebrate locally 1 week afterwards. So Wanda will be able to share her experience at the provincial awards.
Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you, Frank, for everything you do. Volunteers are very, very important, and I can remember back in the day when I was working with the recreation, we took Winnie Surratt, or I took Winnie Surratt to Halifax for the volunteer award, and it was that time I told her that I'm driving Miss Daisy, and the way we went to Halifax, and it was good. So I'm well aware of the work that the recreation does, and all the volunteers that are involved with it. So thank you very much for that.
Any other comments from council or staff? Thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, old business, item 11, 11.1, the bylaw development. We have with us today Darlene LeBlanc, the Deputy CAO. If you wouldn't mind, Darlene, just hit the red button. Darlene has prepared a brief. This is a development for the containment of fowl. This was asked to be put on the agenda by council, when was it, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? Too long, yeah. So anyway, you have that in front of you. Darlene?
Okay, thank you. So yes, as the warden said, at the May meeting, staff was asked to go away and look at the possible development of a bylaw. And the wording of the motion was to look at, for managing the containment of fowl and any other animals on private property. So we did go away, we did some research on the matter, and we've come back with a couple of items for discussion here so we can get some direction to go away and look at drafting a bylaw. So I'll just go through some of these. I'll do an overview of it, and then we can come back and discuss each point. Under the definitions, we need to determine what animals the bylaw would deal with. So is it just for fowl? And if not, what are the other animals that we're referring to? And so we've got the Nova Scotia Fences and Detention of Stray Livestock Act addresses livestock already, and we have a dog bylaw that addresses dogs. And I've got a definition there of fowl, which can be defined however we'd like to define it, but that's just a definition for us to work from. So what is the offense? It's when an animal runs at large, which is off the property that is owned, leased, or rented by the owner of the animal. Possible consequences of violation of the bylaw would be to order an appropriate enclosure to be built on the property, or to order the detention of the animal. And then if the animal's detained, different ways to address detained animals, they would be either reclaimed by owners, or if not, then the municipality could order the sale of the animal. And if that doesn't or can't happen, the municipality could order the destruction of the animal. Those are all possible options. Complainants would be instructed to contact the SPCA if the SPCA is who you choose to enforce the bylaw. And that's a recommendation. There would be a cost associated with that, of course. And penalties could range from a fine with a range of amounts. For example, it could be from $100 to $1,000, or it could be different amounts for first, second, third offenses, that sort of thing. So those are both two options. So that's just an overview of some of the issues that we wanted to get some direction on. So maybe we can go back and look at the definition and who we want, or what animals we want this bylaw to be about.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Darlene. I spend a significant amount of time chasing animals in the municipality lately, so it's become fairly ridiculous, to be honest. And I think we had previously talked about this being, and I want to be very clear, I don't care what you do with your animals on your own property. I need the public to understand that. This is not what this is about. You can have as many chickens and turkeys as you want, but you need to respect your neighbor and their rights. I have residents that can't get groceries out of their own car without being attacked by geese, and they're not cute geese. They're very mean geese. And a picture of a resident that had 25 fowl on their lawn this week, and they don't own one. So that's the purpose behind this. We talked about kind of calling it something similar to the good neighbor bylaw, because that's the idea. I think it needs to include fowl. It needs to include as many animals. The idea of it is that people contain their animals no matter what they are. You know, the same house has like 6 cats. They were with the fowl in their neighbor's pooping in their neighbor's garden, pooping in their neighbor's sheds. Cats can be a part of that as well. Like it should encompass all the animals that the Fencing and Arbitration Act doesn't, or the Fencing Arbitration Act does not, and the dog bylaw that does not. It should be as well-rounded as possible.
Okay.
Councillor Patty Durkee, then I'll go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Nick. I completely agree. You know, you just never know, from the guinea hens who are all over the place to geese and pigs and cattle. It's all of this that neighbors are unhappy when the neighbors' animals are running at large on their property. And I think it's fantastic that we seem to be having more farms popping up around Yarmouth County, which I think is wonderful. But it isn't wonderful if you're the neighbor and you have to deal with all the squawking and the poo and the this and the that. So I completely agree with Nick in this regard, that we do have to have something. Again, doesn't matter how many you have, but you just have to keep them on your own property. Thanks.
I'll defer my position and go over to the Deputy Warden, then I'll go. Deputy Warden.
Yeah, I guess, and thank you to staff for doing this work. I guess my everything has to be balanced, and if there's an issue, there's an issue, but also there's a cost. So I think, you know, before we adopt the bylaw, I think we really should know what, you know, order of magnitude of costs we're getting into, because it is an issue, but it's an issue that does have a cost associated with it. So I mean, I'd like to have some you know, cost estimate before I spoke in favor or maybe not of the you know, the policy or bylaw. I guess it would be a bylaw.
I'll go next. When we're talking about fowl, when personally owned fowl, like people say like Canada geese, well, some people feed them and that's not what we're talking about here. It'd be things like ornamental geese. I don't know. When you talk about fowl, it could include chickens, which most generally people that own chickens keep them within their yard in pen, because some of them, because of some of the other wildlife that's out there, like hawks and stuff, they don't want them to get in. But some people do allow them the free range, as long as they stay within their property. As Councillor Nick Hilton stated, most generally there wouldn't be a problem. There was something else that come up, rabbits. There was a complaint about rabbits, about someone trying to grow their own food in the yard, and as we all know, with the prices of produce, fresh produce in the stores and stuff, There was a complaint up my way about the next door neighbor's rabbits, which they had around the yard, not wild rabbits, like ornamental rabbits, had gone in and eaten up their carrots and their peas and their potatoes and all that other stuff. And I don't think it's very funny, people trying hard to try to save a few dollars and have some fresh vegetables, whereas the neighbor's stray animals or rabbits or whatever they may be comes over and destroys something that they're working so hard for, because as we all know, an animal can destroy a garden just like that. Pigs, sometimes there's pigs that are running large. I tried to get this addressed when we went through our MPS and LUB in regards to a definition of free range and open range animals, but that did not get added. But I think this good neighbor bylaw would be a good start. How to manage complaints? That's a good question. As it's stated in here, would they be instructed to contact the SPCA? If a person finds a stray animal, who do they contact? Penalty. As far as I'm concerned, the penalty should be equal to what it costs to remove the animals from someone else's property, and that should go directly to the animal owners, as far as I'm concerned. Because an amount of X amount of dollars might not cover the time that would be charged in the municipality, because as I think it was put in here, that where is it? If the SPCA was called out, I'm sure there's going to be an extra cost to the municipality of District Yarmouth. I don't think the whole municipality should pay that. I think the owner of the animals should be responsible for that. So I guess the penalties could possibly read something along the cost of recovery. That's just a thought there. Thank you for this, Darlene. There's no easy solution to this, but unfortunately, this seems to become a bigger and bigger problem. When we also talk about turkeys, there used to be back in 1980, and I do know this, there's a guy by the name of Bernard Cosman. In 1980, he had released with the Department of Natural Resources at the time wild turkeys in Nova Scotia. And these, now, from my understanding, I don't think there's any of them left that was released originally back in 1980. But there is still wild turkeys, and I am one that had some wild turkeys running around my fields and stuff that were eating ticks. I think it should include wild turkeys and stuff like that, guinea hens, a lot of different things. But we'll see. I'm going to move on to Councillor Nick Hilton. That's just my thoughts on the subject. Sorry, it was Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess, I'm not sure if I go through anyway. I guess what I'm wondering, and it kind of relates to what Councillor Cunningham was saying about cost, because I agree that there are animals that need to be taken care of, not in a bad way, but taken care of. I guess the question would be, like, a big thing would be finding out, if we're going to go in and detain the animal, where are we going to detain it? I mean, I know the SPCA, and maybe I'm naive, I don't know if there's farms that take them, but I know the SPCA, cats, dogs, they'll take rabbits, but when you start getting into geese, guinea hens, and we're going to start moving into, I don't know if we're getting into cows and goats and things like that, but if we're going to detain them, where are we going to detain them? Like, because so that to me is that is where I'm getting at, I guess, as far as Councillor Cunningham. Like, so there's going to be some cost with trying to set something up. And then, not that I'm against doing it, I just, that would definitely be some information that I would like to have brought back. I'd like to know where we, if the SPCA is going to be willing to come in and do this, and if they're not, then is there another organization that we can go to take care of this, or is this going to rely on us trying to create our own band of justice?
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to answer a couple of those questions, the SPCA already does this work for other municipalities. The reason, and they were willing to do it here 2 months ago, the only thing that stopped them is the fact that we don't have a bylaw. Cows and goats, it is already our responsibility to enforce the Fence Arbitration Act, and we don't have the ability to do that, which was made clear in Wellington last night. It's not a question if we should have a bylaw, and it should have some teeth to be able to manage these issues, because I've been through the province, Department of Agriculture, unless the animals are mistreated or underfed, or unless there's a issue around cruelty, they won't touch it. The detention of animals and livestock really falls on us. It got to the point today where the RCMP visited the home, or one of the homes, one of the incidents, because the neighbors were so upset. I have multiple Facebook messages of them almost crying and asking for help. This work does already exist. We just need a bylaw that enforces it. I'm okay if there's fines involved that recoup the cost to the taxpayer. People need to be responsible for their animals if you're going to be an animal owner. I also think there should be part in the bylaw that mentions when they're off grounds, if they do any destruction or harm to other, or just the idea of cleaning up after their animals after they've been on private property or government property. I've had calls from runners in Dayton that complain that the horses that walk around the lake don't pick up after themselves, and they should be accountable for those things. We're not asking for anything other than common decency here. So I think all those things should be encompassed in this, and unless we create a bylaw, we have no way to ask the SPCA what it would cost, or at least a draft bylaw, what it would cost to operate that bylaw. So I think we decide what we want in it, we put all the things together, and then we approach them and get a price. And that could be a year-round fee or per incident, but both of those things could be brought up to them.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Darlene, for the work and for the staff for the work you've done on this. I know under the definition you have fowl, guinea hens. I think the warden mentioned that. I feel like they should be in there. And when I look at the Nova Scotia Fence and Detention of Stray Livestock Act, the definition says livestock for that particular part means cattle, sheep, swine, goats, horses, ponies, mules, ratties, farm deer, and game farm animals and other livestock designated by. So I feel like that clearly defines, other than rabbits. They're the only thing that isn't in there. Does the SPCA, do we pay for like fee for service? Like if we have the detention of an animal, do we pay a yearly fee, or is it like on a user basis? Do we know the answer to that?
Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to Councillor Hurlbert, it's a flat fee for the annual contract, and the SPCA maintains their facilities in our community. As Councillor Hilton mentioned, Mr. Chair, there is a willingness to have a conversation around offering this service, but a lot depends on what council's looking for, what council's looking to control. And I think, Councillor Allen made a very good point. The cost associated with doing this will have a direct correlation between the types of animals that fall under the bylaw and what council would like to see done with an animal that is on the loose and detained. There are a whole host of other issues around the approach to enforcement. Summary offense tickets tend to be a more expeditious approach because you don't have to go to the court and get a ruling. You can just issue the summary offense ticket, and it's up to the individual to prove that they weren't guilty. Because, we're going to run into trouble identifying who owns the guinea hen, because they're common. And there are areas where there are guinea hens on several properties in a row. So we do have to ask ourselves a lot of questions on this in order to generate buy-in in the community that this is the right thing to do, to be a good neighbor and still be a community that celebrates its heritage around agriculture. So to strike that balance there.
Okay, so thank you very much. So that was one of my next questions, was how do we prove who owns them? And you just answered that, so that...
We may not ever be able to sometimes.
Right, yes. And do we know if there are other bylaws in Nova Scotia that cover this, that maybe we could kind of incorporate and then bring back something? Do we have to make a motion, or do we just let staff continue to work on this with our, like, after we've given our feedback tonight?
Yeah, I think if we have a sense of where council's at with these major elements that need to be in the bylaw, we can get to work on drafting some language. And it could be that council's going to see this, a couple of 3 times before they're comfortable with first reading.
Yep.
Because we also have to get it to the place where you feel like, yeah, this is the sweet spot, and then we get the pricing.
Right, yep,
So,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Deputy Warden.
Yeah, Councillor Hurlbert asked the question about around a motion. I was going to make a motion, but I'm not going to now. But I think those are all the pieces. I mean, it may take several times back at the council table to get the language right and price it out. But it seems reasonable if all those things are done and the price is not so much that it be prohibitive. And if if it's something that can be done by the SPCA and isn't going to add a lot of workload to our municipal staff, then it's probably generally would probably be a good thing. Having said that, I mean, obviously we'll have to run it through legal as well, which you typically do. So those would be my comments. Thanks.
Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I agree with my fellow councillors on the comments they had towards developing the bylaw for animals on other property, or stray animals, if you want to mention that, or that. And definitely, as Councillor Allen had mentioned, there's going to be a cost to that, and definitely the cost should reflect back to the owner of the animal, and the rest of the taxpayers of the municipality of Yarmouth should not be responsible to pay for their what's the word I'm looking for? Their ignorance of not looking after their animals properly. Thank you.
I see no more microphones. The last thing I'm going to say is I certainly don't want to be a hindrance as a councillor, because I am a councillor in District 1. I don't want to be a hindrance to anyone who's looking to raise their own food. But I do believe that the neighbors have a right to be able to grow their own food, and a neighbor's animal should not be coming over and taking away all their hard work. I think it's important that we keep the agricultural industry and thoughts going. That's something with the rising prices and stuff that's been happening over the past few years. People are starting to go back to their roots by actually growing their own vegetables and their own food animals, and even just animals just to relax. A lot of people like watching their ducks in their pond, but when it comes to encroaching on their neighbor's property, that's where I have a problem with. So I'm assuming you have what you're looking for. Is there any other questions, Darlene, that you were looking to have answered, or that wasn't addressed by any of us?
No, I don't think so. I think we have a good sense of where council would like to go with this, so we can go away and draft something for council discussion and review.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a balance, that's for sure. Thank you very much. Moving on, 11.2, Port Maitland Fog Alarm Building Divestiture.
So, Mr. Chair, pursuant to the Municipal Government Act and in light of the public hearing this evening, I'm prepared to recommend that council move forward and authorize the execution of the purchase and sale agreement to the Light of Hope Port Maitland Lighthouse Society for $1.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
So moved.
Motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion? I will say this much. As long as I've known Councillor Durkee, when she was elected almost 8 years ago, this is one of the things that she wanted to see. There was that piece of property getting back to the community. Finally, it's happened. I do know that Councillor Durkee's worked hard on that, and even the councillors before her, councillors, actually at the time would have been Deputy Warden Steve Paquette, had mentioned about that. So as long as I've been on council, that's been an ongoing community want. So provided this motion passes, finally. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to congratulate the group that has put their name forward to take on that project, and just say how much I think Derek Thomas would be moved by this tonight, and that I wish he was here with us to see that happen. So I'll be voting yes in his memory.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Happy to report that motion is carried unanimously. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with that property and their plans. Item 11.3, resident tax rebate concerns. Councillor Patty Durkee.
I was approached by a resident who asked me to bring forth the concerns that they had with regards to the resident tax rebate. Basically, what the concern was that there was not enough information provided via letters, other than the little orange piece of paper that was in the email, or in the newsletter, and they felt that there should be a letter that goes out explaining the program to everyone, because there's such a large community of people who do not have a computer, and who, particularly seniors who are not online. And in the newsletter, it said that, you know, information would be forthcoming, but the only place is to call and or go on the web. So he was very concerned and felt that people were being discriminated against if they didn't have computer services. Also, the concern was that in having to provide the assessment from income tax, it was providing too much information to the municipality. And in this day and age where there is concern about identity fraud, they felt that there is too big a risk to have to provide that piece of assessment for the municipality. And the last piece was that they felt that people also were being discriminated against because we were dictating levels, and this gentleman felt that there should have been an overall tax reduction so that everybody would benefit from a change, or getting money back. So he didn't appreciate the rebate program at all, and felt that everybody should have benefited, and they can't unless they put in an application. So I just wanted to share that information forward. If you want to make comments about that, that's fine.
Any comments? Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Councillor Durkee, for your comments. And I think we have, as a council, as a whole, I think we've recognized that we're unable to reach everybody with information about different programs that are available, and this is one of them. We went through that with the IUBs and whatnot. So it's important for us to really find a way that we can address the concerns of a lot of residents who do not have computers or whatnot, or don't know how to contact the municipality government. However, in saying that, I agree that we have to have some type of a standard and some type of guideline to follow in order to make our residents able to take part in this rebate, for the simple reason we don't want it to be abused. All information that is gathered, I would assume that is confidential, and it doesn't go no further than what the application has on it. So we got to have some type of standards, and of course, I think we agreed on the level of income would relate to their tax rebate that they would be getting, and it's an opportunity for all citizens within the municipality of Yarmouth to take advantage of it. If they don't want to take advantage of it, that's entirely up to them. But our lack of communication to the public is a problem, and we certainly have to try to work around that and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to understand the programs that are out there. Thank you.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a couple questions through you to the CAO. The low income tax exemption, the 30,000 and under, and the one-time program are open until the end of August, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as of today, we had roughly 150 applications. That works out to maybe $30,000. We know that the one-time investment could cost us up to $300,000. That's what we budgeted, so that's 10%. Only 10% of the people that are eligible have possibly applied. That means that 90% of people either don't know about it or are choosing not to. But I'm going to say, when it comes to money back, the majority of that group either don't know about it or haven't had the time. There's still a few more weeks. I do think that we haven't done enough to share the word on that. I know there's no one around this table that didn't want to make a policy or a rebate that would be eligible for everyone. We just know that wasn't possible. But this was the idea behind this one, that we could help people that were in lower tax income brackets, and I'm not sure that we have done enough. 10% is not enough. 10% buy-in is not enough. So what are we going to do about that? You know, we have 2.5 weeks without extending the deadline. I'm not sure if staff have any recommendations, but that buy-in, if I'm interpreting the numbers correctly, which I very well cannot be, isn't high enough at this point to say that that program was successful. And on a personal note, I had a resident that came in. I'm not sure how we decided we decided that what the criteria would be, but according to him, line 150 on his income tax return was the only thing that was being looked at. And because his wife passed away last year, by 5 days, like 5 days into that year, and her RSPs were transferred to him, which are no additional income to the household, he was refused to be able to submit his application. So I feel like we should have been evaluating each application to make sure that everyone was getting the same. If there's no additional income to the household, then he, in my opinion, should have been eligible. I work with continuing care. Exceptions can be made.
See no more comments. As far as I'm concerned, this is something that the council had debated a lot during the budgetary process. Is every program that any government organization issues perfect? Absolutely not. Can you always improve your communication? Absolutely. This was a one-time tax rebate put forward to this council. Now, the elections are coming up this fall. It will be the decision of the next council, whether we are sitting here or whether there are 7 different people sitting here, whether they're going to move forward or not. I think it was the first crack at it was a very good one. Is, like I said earlier, is it perfect? No. There's no program that's perfect. I can't think of any municipal, provincial, or federal rebate program that anyone has talked about is perfect. Some people like it. There's always going to be people that wished could have been done differently. If this was a continuing program, it probably would. Now, what's going to happen to the next council, I have no idea. They're going to hear at the door. Maybe the tax rebate program would be not there, and council would decide to levy a different tax rate. I don't know how that's going to work, but we did the best that we could at the time with the information we had, as far as I'm concerned. Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our CIO, through a motion, would it be possible to extend the deadline, because we've only allowed a month for this, to the end of September? And if we do a mail out, I know it's going to cost some funds, but considering the number of people who have applied so far, if we do a mail out with the details, a little bit more detail, could that be effective? And can we do that?
So, Mr.
Your
Chair,
motion.
through you to the council, I'd just like to review the communications plan that was used to roll out the program, and this strategy was reviewed with council and approved by council. So, the program is for the owner of a primary residential property. Every single tax bill had that slip of paper in it. So the people who were the targets of the program received their tax bills, they received their notification in their tax bill about the program. In addition to going to our website for information, they were invited to call the office for additional information or come by the office. So that allows the level of service to be provided to a person who's interested in the way they're most comfortable with and in the way that meets them where they are at their need level. In addition to that, we ran all of our typical social media and website campaigns. We paid for advertising on CJLS. We had a press release that was covered by CJLS. We put an effort into communicating this program that is above our normal effort for communicating. So I feel like the team did an exceptional job getting the word out on this piece. I guess what I will say, if I'm being frank and honest, is the issue with extending the deadline is the election. This program cannot become part of the campaigning process. This is a program that is designed to provide relief to people who are experiencing adversity. And the closing of the application window is intentional to close before nominations close, so that staff can be reviewing the applications, making sure they comply, and getting the checks ready to get them out this fall. And so I do have a concern with extending the deadline and having it all muddled up with the election.
You still have the floor, Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While I understand where our CAO is coming from, I still think it would be beneficial for us even to extend it by 2 weeks into the middle of September. So I'm going to make a motion that we send a letter out to all of our residents to explain the program in a little bit more detail, and that we extend the program for an additional 2 weeks.
Your motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. All right, discussion on the motion on the floor. Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you, Madam CAO, for explaining how how your staff relayed them the opportunity for a tax rebate to the residents of the municipality of Yarmouth. Obviously, I never got one in my mail, but and I would say that it's certainly noteworthy that your staff has taken that opportunity to do so. But I can't remember seeing what the exact wording was on that information sheet that was sent out. So, but I don't think I'm really in favor of providing an extra 2 weeks myself. I think for what you said, Madam CAO, that every resident in the municipality of Yarmouth got that notice, and it was certainly up to them to contact our office to make application for it. I don't know the reason why there's not more, but anyway, thank you for the effort.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yeah, like Councilor Cushing, won't be voting in favor for 2 reasons. Number one, this will end up with staff time and the postage and all the rest of it, and end up costing about 10 grand, I would guess, by the time we're done. That's a lot of money. So, I mean, we're trying to help out taxpayers, yet we're spending more money. So we've got to be really, really careful. As a council, we agreed to a plan, staff executed the plan, and that's it. We can't keep on going and revisiting and relitigating all of these issues, because we'll end up spending, if we do this 5 or 6 times, we'll end up spending, another $100,000. That's a cent on the rate. So, or more. So all I'm saying is we really have to be careful about revisiting things, to the nth degree. It can be counterproductive. So for that reason, and to our CEO's point, this could cause all kinds of trouble during the election period. You go around to the door, and all of a sudden somebody's saying, "I want my rebate," and you're saying, "Yeah," and you're going and going to staff and saying, "Hey, what's this all about?" And then you have the controversy of saying this person's trying to buy a vote. So this is, or get a vote through action on their behalf, during the election campaign. This is something that, that election campaign period is something where, is an area where, to the extent possible, we should really try to be neutral ground with anybody that would compete with us. So for those reasons, I'm not voting for the extension. I think it's very, very unwise.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I only have a few things. First thing is, I 100% agree with Nick's assessment that 10% is way too low. I couldn't agree more with that. I don't, however, believe that extending 2 weeks is going to change that. I don't believe that we have time. It's not so much the money concern. I don't believe, but in order for us to staff's time to get it ready, get it out, get it in people's hands, and leave them in a few days to get in here isn't enough time to do it, in my opinion. I know of a few seniors that I've talked to that have got it. They weren't sure what they were going to do with it. And as I told them, it's up to them. I don't believe that we're discriminating against anybody that doesn't have a computer, because we went out, they can phone, they can come. I really don't, I agreed to the process, and I'm going to stick to the process. I really wish more people would come before the deadline. I wish they would come in droves. We put the money aside to help them, and it's there. And I can't do anything other than tell them that. And, we put this program in place because we seen what 1 cent would do. It wasn't going to do anything. Like, it was it would be more embarrassing to go with the 1 cent than it was to go with trying to give people $100 or $200 back. And I think we made the right decision on offering this program. I hope that if the same thing happens next year, that the next council offers this program. I really do. But for right now, I think we went out to the people. We've advertised in every way that we possibly can. And if we can't get it, we can't force people to come. You just can't force them to come. I wish they would come, but I can't force them. So, as Councillor Cunningham, I won't be voting in favor of a 2-week extension.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to be very clear that my comments are specific to the numbers that are on the table, the amount of applications that we've had. The staff here always do good work. It's not related to them. It's related to our residents, and the reason that we made the policies, or the one-time rebate. I do think that we never actually put something in their hand that said the program was active, and here was the application form almost. And I think we should almost regret not doing that. I believe we actually set aside money for extra mail-outs this year because it was identified last year that that was the best way to reach people. So to say that this isn't specifically what we should be doing, I struggle with that. And without the mail-out, it doesn't make sense to extend it 2 weeks, because I don't think they'll be any more aware. It'll be real shameful if 25% of people apply for that. Hopefully the last 2 weeks are more positive.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate everyone's comments around the table. I will say that it is, a bit discouraging that we've had such a low uptake. That being said, we have budgeted $300,000, and if we have to spend a little money on postage and a few days' wage of staff, when I look at the municipal website, when I received my tax bill, there was that orange piece of paper. And then when I looked on social media, there was a larger, very nicely crafted how things would lay out. And I would have appreciated if that had been included as part of the mail out to our residents. I think that would have been much more clear. It would have been clearer for, I feel, than that one little, let's call the office. And when I look at the website, it is clear if you know how to get there and can navigate that. And I was trying to find it on our Facebook page, but I just know that that one-page social media one was really a good descriptor of how this rebate program works, much better than the little thing that was actually inserted in my residential tax bill, which I did receive and have paid. But I think that when we talk about money and being the good stewards of our residents' money, our taxpayers' dollars, all along I have said we need to be better at communicating, and I think the CAO has outlined everything that we have done, and I think we have done a good job this time at that. We've had councillors around this table and previous matters tonight talk about how we need to be better at communicating. So for me, a little bit torn. We know we have a pot of money budgeted, over $300,000. We haven't spent a third of that, 10% of that. So for me, what's the harm in extending it 2 weeks, spending a little bit more money? I'm not sure it would be $10,000. We don't know how much it would cost. I'm thinking it's photocopy of an 8x10 and some stamps. I have no idea what that cost would be. Maybe it is $10,000, but I wouldn't want to say it's $10,000 without knowing how much it would cost. But I feel like we have money set aside. We've had a slow uptake, and what really is the harm in extending it 2 weeks to make sure our residents, we as a council have said, we're not communicating enough, how do we reach our residents? Our residents are telling us it needs to be in a letter format to every every mailbox, every taxpayer's mailbox. So for me, I'll vote in favor. I know it's not going to, I'm pretty sure it's not going to pass. I would hope that there would be 4 people around this table who have some compassion for those who we may not have reached or have had a better chance of reaching this time around with a targeted approach. But we have money there. We haven't spent 10% of it. What does it matter, really, in the whole scheme of things? We've spent a lot more on a lot less.
Councillor Patty Durkee and CEO would like to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate all the concerns around the table. So I might be willing to amend the motion to send a letter. Maybe not extend it. I understand the concerns if people are starting to campaign and that could become an issue. But I still think that we have an opportunity. It is the 7th of August and people have until the 31st. And if a letter went out ASAP, at least it would give them details about the program that for those who aren't online. So I'm making a motion to amend my motion. Can I do that?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
So I want to be clear on what the amendment is.
So the amendment is to send a letter out to residents as soon as possible explaining the details and possibly including an application for our rebate program.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. I want to be clear on this. So the motion you made is just to send a letter to the residents, and this would not include the extension, correct?
Correct.
Okay, there's amendment on the floor.
Question for clarification, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before council debates the amendment, so there would be no preparation work per se required if the letter was actually the one-pager. It's done, it's made, we can throw a reminder, get your application in now piece on it, and include the application and get those packages together. I think I misheard a question earlier. The deadline on our traditional low-income exemption has been extended. The deadline to get applications in for this program is September the 9th. So if a reminder notice goes out in the mail, it will not go out to all residents. It will only go out to property owners. Okay.
Yes. Primary residents, yeah.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to the CAO, because she's kind of answering the question I wanted to ask, so preparing this type of thing would go out fairly efficiently, fairly quickly?
I'll say fairly, I mean, you know, we got to print it, we got to stuff it. So it'll take us about a week to get 9,000 or so ready.
Because
Right.
as a compassionate person sitting here, that I was going to vote no to the first motion, I would probably support the second one because we are still doing advertising online, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And are we still doing advertising through CJLS?
I think we did a surge early on, but we have spent what we had planned to spend there. That doesn't mean we couldn't spend more, letting people know that look in your mail because there are details in the mail, kind of thing.
So that wouldn't be
We could buy a few spots.
that wouldn't be a bad idea either. But
That-
beyond that, but it's, yeah, because to me, it's a reminder. I don't mind the reminder thing. I was not for extending, and, yeah, and I do have some compassion, Sherry, thank you.
I didn't say you, well, actually, you did say you weren't going to vote for it.
So, yes, you did. But, yeah, okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
CAO.
Madam Chair.
Not the chair.
I'll let that one slide for now.
Not me.
Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks, Madam CAO, for the explanation of the deadline is not until September 9th. I thought it was the end of August myself. I guess that's my ignorance for not looking at the details of the deadlines. But a reminder letter, yes, I certainly said no on the extension, but I think I will say yes. On the compassionate side, Sherry and Daniel, And just to make it just a reminder, sure, it's, yeah, I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yeah, the uptake has been low. I think this has some, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not sure how much value this has, but if people want it. But I think we should be really careful in evaluating what this does. So, you know, we've got a history of these coming in. Maybe a lot of folks sent it in or applied just after they got the notice in the tax assessment, the tax notice, the tax bill, so forth. And I'm guessing they're sort of continually slowing the incoming requests, right? I would expect it looks something like that. Maybe a few will come in right before. But I think that if it goes out, we should really, given the amount of money we'll spend, so it will be probably at least $10,000. So, you know, I'd question the value of this because I'm not sure how much additional uptake it's going to have. So I think I'll vote for it this time, but I think we really should have some discussion about what staff believes the value of this was after we send it out. So we'll get the data back. We'll know how many more people. I mean, it's always a little bit of a guessing game, but I don't want to continually do programs and then have this conversation over and over again during the next council, because every time we do this, it's another $10,000 or $15,000, and if every time we run a program, we spend another $10,000 or $15,000, it's not that much one time, but when you start adding it all up, it starts getting into mega dollars, right? Significant dollars that could affect, you know, ultimately affects the tax rate, the workflow of staff. So I think we really have to be careful about leveling huge criticisms when on the other side we don't really know what impact this will have. None of us have any idea, positive or negative. So we're taking a little leap of faith. I'll take a little leap of faith on my own individual basis, but I want to have, you know, a report from staff as to what spending this money did. So is this the issue or is it not? We've had the big conversation around the table, and I don't think it has anything to do with compassion, because sometimes when you think too heavily with your heart, too much with your heart, you make bad decisions. So I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm not certain, but I think we need to look at the data after the fact to steer us in the future. So I will vote for it this time around, but I do want to have a fulsome discussion about what the impact of this letter may potentially be. And again, we'll never know for sure, because advertising is like that, communication is like that. You never know 100% for sure what the impact is, but I think we'll be able to get some general feelings around it. So anyway, that's what I'll say about that. Thanks.
This button does not seem to be working that well tonight.
Yes, Sherry's over here.
Oh, Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, and I'll stick by my word, compassion. Thank you for changing your minds.
They haven't yet.
Hopefully, they've said they will. I think that, you know, we've heard over the last 4 years that we need to be better at communication, and like the Deputy Warden said, we don't know, and we will know how many, we know how many we have to date, we know how many we will have had before we send the mail out, and we will know how many we have after we've sent the mail out, until the September 9th deadline, which is better than the end of August, so thank you for clarifying that. So I think that although it may cost us a little bit of money now, we have been talking about how do we communicate with our residents. And there could be people out there who just don't want the money for a variety of reasons. I know someone who works in death insurance, and she said there are people who just don't want money for a variety of reasons. They don't want to claim it. They don't want their this to change. They don't want that to change. They don't want to, you know, maybe they haven't filed income tax for the last 5 years. You know, those are all personal reasons. But I think that this will give us somewhat of a gauge, and hopefully the next council will continue to try to figure out how to best communicate with our residents. And if this isn't it, I think this is it's money in our citizens' hands for some of our residents. So I think it's a good place to start. It might cost us some money now, and maybe we don't continue to, increase deadlines, but if we see there's a huge uptake, then we can say, right, okay, we know that the best way to communicate with our residents isn't just in the newsletter, but it's a targeted mail out on item X. And if it doesn't create an uptake, then we can go back to those residents and say, we tried it, we spent some money, it didn't really give us a good end result, and we move forward from there. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try it this time on an important matter with money as the end result. So, thank you. Education, yeah. Thanks.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a couple of questions through you to the CAO, and I've already forgot my first question. When we made the extension of the low income tax exemption, I thought we made it to match this one specifically. I thought that was actually the conversation. But if it's not a question, it's common, I guess, when you do the mail out with the limited time and the limited ability to construct what's going in there, one line about the low income tax exemption and the deadline being April 30th, that would always be a bonus too. I wouldn't want to see someone apply for this one and because they submitted a notice of assessment that's too low be turned down. So, or maybe they could be looked at anyway. But that would be one thing. And am I not correct, when we approved our budget this year, did we not approve a significant amount of money for additional mail-outs exactly like this? Wasn't it like 10 or 20? It was significant.
I remember the figure in the budget line, it was 300 out of operating reserves, 300.
No. For additional mail-outs, communication.
Yeah, I don't have the
I'm pretty
line
sure we
items
did.
with me, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Hilton, but I definitely know we talked about providing more money to communicate directly with residents, and I think we focused some of that money in through the development and the planning function, which is really where we heard, a lot of feedback from the residents that on those planning matters, we really need to do everything possible to make sure people have awareness about their opportunities to be heard.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Finished, Councillor? Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to our CAO for pointing out that it actually, the rebate went until September the 9th anyway, which is almost 2 weeks into September. So to me, that's great. I totally agree with Sherry, Councillor Hurlbert. She took the words out of my mouth that our issue has been with communication, and here we are trying to improve that. And this way, it'll make a difference to say we're actually doing something to try to ensure that our residents know exactly what's going on. So as our deputy warden said, we'll know. We'll know, and we can come back with, well, we did. We sent a letter out to you. If we don't get the response, the question ends up being, well, what more can we do? We've done this, and it's up to you to take I don't know if this is incorrect terminology anymore, politically incorrect, the bull by the horns, but, and provided the exact information that people need, and so there can be no questions at this point. So, thank you.
Any more discussion on an amendment on the main motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? From my count, motion carried unanimously. All right, back to the main motion. Just remember that the main motion now deletes, as per the amendment, the 2-week extension. So is there any more discussion on the main motion? Are you clear? When we did the amendment on the main motion, what that included was only in regards to the mail out. So that did not, it effectively deleted the 2-week extension. Just to be clear that everyone knows what they're voting on. Okay, is there any more discussion or need any more clarification on the main motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Now, there was one thing that was pointed out. The deputy warden had said something along the lines that he wanted a report on this. So to make things clear and so staff knows what to do, I would entertain a motion on the report on the impact of the mail-out. Deputy Warden?
Right, I'd move that council direct staff to bring a brief report or an opinion on the efficacy or impact of the mail-out that we've just voted for on an increased rate of uptake on the program.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Any discussion on that? One thing I wanted to point out is we got to make sure whenever, if we want direction from staff, that it should be in a motion, because it will come up in the CEO's report, and then it will keep staff accountable to something that we mentioned just rather than off the cuff. So I am learning still as we go as a chairperson. Any discussion? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, you have the floor.
One question through you to the CAO, and you may not be able to answer this. Is it possible to have that done before our term ends in October?
So given that the deadline is September the 9th, and we are creating a dashboard, we're inputting the applications as they come in every day, I think that I should be able to provide it at your very last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
And our very last meeting is what date, which I don't even know? The 3rd of October?
I think, Mr. Chair, I'll be bringing that to council for a final decision at the September 5th meeting.
Yeah, because I do believe there was always one after the end of every term, one in October before the election, where you get your last 2 minutes of fame.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, huh? Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, everyone, we've gone just past our two-hour meeting limit for a regular council meeting. I need a motion to extend. Moved by Councillor Nick Hilton, seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Motion on the floor to extend the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. And if anyone out there is wondering why we needed a motion to extend, typically our regular council meetings are capped at 2 hours unless there's a motion by council to extend, which we just did. And the CEO sent me a note, but that was the first thing that was on my mind when I was looking at the clock.
I was the deliverer.
Yeah, she was the, just trying to keep the chair straight, huh? All right, moving on. Item 11.4, emergency response to wildfires. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wildfires and floods, just as a side note, any natural phenomena. We all know that over the last year, we've experienced a lot of, or we've had some wildfires and some flooding within the province, and I will make a motion. Just haven't quite figured out how to get the wording out there and figure out what I really would like is something from EMO and from our municipal staff to come back to council, probably not the council that's sitting around this table, but in a future council, sooner rather than later, on how we, as a municipality, through our EMO, I'm assuming, handles all of those things. So we know that there have been some in the media, there have been some criticisms on how municipalities and the province have handled some of these things. And for my own peace of mind as a councillor and as a resident, what happens if there is a fire in our municipality? How, not line by line, but how do we as a municipality handle that? How does EMO handle that? How, the emergency alert process through the province, through the municipality? How are those handled? When can the municipality do it? When do we have to ask the province to do it? So I think not just a brief, but a presentation from staff along with EMO, and so I can make the motion, bear with me, make a motion to ask staff to provide, or to make a presentation along with EMO on our emergency response preparedness and processes with regard to natural disasters.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Good one. Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion. You still have the floor, Councillor
Thank you.
Gilbert.
I just think it's really important, not only for us as a council, but I feel like when I look at what's happened in our neighboring municipality in Barrington and in Halifax, and then, the municipalities that had flood issues, and I think as a councillor, I've sat back and I wonder how I, as a councillor in that district, how I would have reacted, what would I have done, and I know what generally my responsibilities are, and I know we leave it to the professionals, but I feel like I, as a councillor, should really have a good handle on what we do, and I don't feel I do, and that may be just me, but also how we communicate those things to our residents, to our constituents. I just feel it's very important because we know it's happening. It's just bound to happen. We look in Barrington and, they had to bring our garbage to our solid waste. So how does our solid waste, how does our solid waste park deal with that? How are those different components within the municipality? How does trash pickup happen if a wildfire or a flood happens? And I don't feel like I have a good handle on that, and I just want to make sure we do as council, but also our residents know kind of beforehand so that we're not in as much of a panic mode as we should be, and to know what our responsibilities are specifically versus what the province's responsibilities are and how those overlap. Thanks.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hobart, for the comments. I'm the chair of REMO, and so much has happened in the last couple of years, and I couldn't agree more that this council probably needs an update on some of those things. We've had some staff changes and a lot of positive work that's been done. We had a meeting last week talking about the work that's being done to update those emergency response policies and procedures, and in those updates are specifically floods and wildfires and snowstorms and all the things that could possibly happen within our municipality, rated on a scale of probability and a bunch of things, but it's not done yet. We also talked about the Nova Scotia Guard, the province recognizing that they've been, there's been some disorder. There's been some disorder to the previous natural disasters. So much work. I think even when we met with the Premier, he spoke specifically about the increase in frequency of natural disasters and the fact that where maybe it wasn't a problem before, it clearly is now. And the other thing that you mentioned was the alert program, the provincial alert program, and they're questioning if we're going to be able to activate that in a more local manner. So some of those things are being worked on. But I think the motion to have, we said EMO, but we probably mean REMO. Yeah, EMO, would that be provincially? Yeah, either way, to present to you so that you have an understanding of what's happening. And to be honest, I'm the chair, and it's a lot of information, and it's being put at us in a hurry because of what's been going on. So I don't know if we can keep Shane to 10 minutes, but he'll gladly share what he knows and maybe even provide you some opportunities for education if you're here next term, if you choose to be here next term. Or if you're voted in next term. Anyway, I can see that that's a theme of going to be a theme of the next few meetings. So anyway, great question. lots of, yeah, I think you hit every point that Remo's working on, and by having staff come in and prepare that, I don't even think it's our staff, it's probably the Remo staff that you want to hear from, and that request can go to them.
Then, Councillor, thank you. Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking of natural disasters, I attended a seminar or a conference on natural disasters. Definitely wasn't last year. Must have been the year before, I believe I attended it in Halifax. And I do know that our solid waste park, the landfill, has a plan in place for any type of natural disaster. If debris has to be taken to the landfill, there's a plan to take care of it. So, as for the conference I attended, I'll dig up the information and I can pass it on to the CAO if maybe you already have it, I don't know. So, but that would be a help. Thank you.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hurlbert. I couldn't agree more. Again, good points. One of the things that people were concerned about in the most recent floods in the valley is the response time to alert people. And hopefully that once we speak to our Remo group, they'll have a plan with how quickly that they can get information out to keep people safe. Unfortunately, in the latest flood, there was a child lost. And so I think the sooner that folks can know about what's happening in our community, the faster they can respond, stay home, whatever needs to be done. Again, we have a lot of vulnerable people in our community who, again, may not have cell phones and may not have computers, and how do we get this information out to them? I think it's really important. However, as I recall, that the suggestion of a vulnerable persons list was voted down, and whether I think the provincial government actually is going to end up requiring that, because these are the people who won't get those beeps on their phone because they may not have one. So I think that's really important. So I look forward, if I'm here, if I run, to hearing the actual process. I know we had a course and that was really important, but I just think under the present circumstances. And so I also want to comment that, as council, we are now dealing with things that no councils used to deal with. It's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. It's not just, we sit back and watch. We have to help in any way that we can. So it's an additional responsibility as councillors. So I hope people who decide to run are prepared that they need to be involved in these situations.
Councillor Hilton.
Thank you. Just a couple comments about your comments. The provincial alert system, that recommendation, I believe, is being brought from higher up, that there needs to be people in the community that can make that call and send out that message, probably because of the loss of that child. A report, we reviewed a draft report of the Barrington wildfire put together by our Remo coordinator, and when that's completed, which it probably won't be till the next meeting, we'll try to share that with council, which probably, again, won't be this council. So lots of recommendations, and to Patty's point, like when we read the recommendations, it was like, is this really in our ballpark? Like a lot of the recommendations are provincial, in DNR, like all kinds, like everyone needs to be involved. I think that's been the hardest part of building policies and procedures that make sense, is that when you have a natural disaster, it's not going to be handled just by your Remo coordinator. It needs to make sure that everyone's on the same page, and getting everyone on the same page has been the problem.
And a lot of people out there think, so it will never happen here. I think it was 2010 or 2011, when they were rebuilding Reynolds Lake Dam, and Lake Vaughan Dam was overflowing. We had to declare a state of emergency and evacuate some people. Fortunately, nothing happened, but flooding can happen here. That's the first example that I can think of. Thank God we've had no wildfires with some of the droughts that we've had over the past few years. But I'm certainly in support of the motion because information is key, not only to the council, but to the public. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Addition to the agenda item 11.5, street light on Bunkers Island. Councillor Nick Hilton, you would ask to have that added?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do apologize to the CAO because I asked her about it earlier this week, and then I kind of sprung it on the agenda tonight, mainly for the reason that we have 2 months left and only 2 meetings. And I kind of would like to know if you could provide any update on the conversation you had with Public Works in relation to the policy and the probability of getting a streetlight put in at Bunkers Island related to the safety issues of the road and the Canada Post mailbox there.
MCO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first of all, I guess this request didn't follow the traditional requirements of the policy. So the policy does call for a written application, but because there was a resolution from council, we took a look at this one without a written application. And section 3 of the policy is the guiding principles. And so under intended use, the policy indicates that the streetlight asset is intended to provide safe and secure travel for vehicular and pedestrian traffic throughout the municipality where these two have cause to share roadways and walkways in sufficient number and frequency so as to warrant an investment in streetlight infrastructure. It is also intended that the installation of a streetlight would aid in the accessibility and efficient use of municipal infrastructure. The municipality does not provide streetlights for personal or commercial convenience or as a measure of security. The municipality considers these objectives beyond the scope and responsibilities. And then further down in the policy, it indicates that the lights will only be located on provincial public streets or roads, municipally owned streets or roads. Private roads, laneways, and driveways will not be serviced, subject to some discretion on the part of the municipality to protect its own infrastructure. Streets and roads in other municipal jurisdictions or towns will not be serviced. 100 series highways will not be serviced. Bunkers Island Road is owner unknown, and it is not in the province's road list. So for those reasons, the inquiry doesn't really meet the requirements of the policy.
So as Don Houston this morning, the first 950 meters of Bunkers Island is a G-class road owned by the province.
G-class?
I believe that's what it was in the message. I'd have to look again.
So through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Hilton, that could be new information because I have the 2020 cost-sharing list and Bunkers is not on it, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been an error and Bunkers has been added since 2020.
That's one item. When you read 3.1 of the streetlight policy, I do think it meets the first paragraph in the fact that where vehicle and pedestrian traffic throughout the municipality where these two have caused to share roadways and walkways, you have a mailbox with 50 mail slots of 50 of your local residents on a dark road very close to housing. I believe it is a provincial roadway from what I've learned. And the second paragraph does not provide streetlights for personal or commercial convenience. I don't think that's an issue. Or as a measure of security. This isn't about security, this is about safety. So I still strongly believe that this meets the requirements of this bylaw. I've had several requests from local residents. We know that Canada Post will not provide lighting for these mailboxes. These residents have no other avenue to provide safe passage there. We know the people that use Bunkers Island aren't always up to good things. So getting your mail on a dark road isn't safe, and I've read the policy, I believe it fits the policy, and I didn't submit a written application because we did it through council, and I still think the council there should be a motion to put a street light over that mailbox, and I'll make that a motion.
So you're making a motion to put a street light over that mailbox on Bunkers Island, correct?
Yes.
Motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Patty Durkee. Discussion on that motion? Deputy Warden?
Yeah, I don't disagree with the fact that, you know, these, you know, I guess lots of folks want street lighting near mailboxes, but I mean, this agenda item got added tonight. I haven't had a chance to review the policy. Really, it's a staff item we set the policy, staff works within that policy. So procedurally, I mean, I can't vote for it tonight because I haven't, you know, staff, you know, there's some question about who owns the road and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, I'm not prepared to vote yay or nay. I mean, I don't think this is the type of thing that we should be putting on the agenda and talking about. I don't have the policy in front of me. There's some argument going back and forth about the facts. So for that reason, I mean, I'm not going to vote in a positive way for the motion. I don't know if the motion should even be made tonight, truth be told. So, you know.
It's me.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the information. This was something that we had discussed and made a motion quite a while back. I am aware also that there are definitely safety concerns in that area. We have put streetlights in areas on roads where there were very few people, but it happens to be dark and it's near a house. And when you consider the number of people in that area this affects, I do believe that this is an important place for our residents, and I will be in favor of this motion.
Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I certainly understand the Bunker Island Road and how dark it is, and that there's a community mailbox there. Is that what you're saying? Well, that should be the responsibility of Canada Post, number one. And I'm not sure if I got enough information on, is it a provincial road or is it a private road? Is it an Irvin Oil road? Did Irvin Oil build it? Or Madam CAO had explained that she can't find it, but then Councillor Hilton says that he's pretty aware that it is a provincial road. So before I can make a decision, I certainly want to know whose road is it and who's responsible for the lighting. I just don't think we should just go put a light up somewhere just because. That's my main concern. Safety, yes, is utterly important, very important. However, what would be the next thing that comes up that we have to take responsibility for, and it's really not our responsibility. So I really can't support it right now until I get some further information on it and clarification on who owns the road. Thank you.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I appreciate Councillor Hilton's bringing this forward. I'm fearful, and I'm not going to use the word compassion at all. I'm fearful that this motion may fail, not pass, and if it doesn't, through you to the CAO, what happens next? Or can we table it until the next meeting when we have all of the information? Through you to the CAO, could we maybe just some clarity on what happens?
Sure. So if if the motion moves forward and there's a vote on the motion and it fails, that exact same motion cannot be brought forward. But it can be brought forward, a motion can be made to reconsider it. So notice of motion could be served to reconsider it. So let's say new information comes forward. A notice of motion could be served to reconsider it. Or a motion could be made tonight to table it until the next meeting, September 5th. And a subsequent motion could be made to give me specific direction on what additional information council might like to have. For example, how many community mailboxes are there in the municipality of Yarmouth that are not lit? And what control does the municipality have on whether or not those mailboxes move? And what's the cost to move the street light with the mailbox when it moves?
So I guess for process back through to the CAO, if Counselor Hilton, does he have to withdraw his motion?
No,
Or I
any-
can make them?
any member can make a motion to
So
table
he's,
it.
but he's made the motion and it's been seconded.
But a motion to table
Can happen-
supersedes the original motion?
Can happen before his vote happens?
It has to.
Okay,
has
okay, that's
to
what
happen.
that's what I thought. I just
Yep.
wasn't, I don't think we've ever, in the 4 years I've been here, I don't think we've gotten
Yeah.
this far down the road.
Yeah.
So, we have? I don't recall, sorry. So I will make a motion that we table it until the September meeting.
Okay, a motion
Period.
on the floor to table. Do I have a seconder? I seen Counselor Allen's hand go up.
Oh, no, that wasn't the second. Go ahead, Nick, you seconded.
Okay, seconded by Counselor Nick Hilton then. I don't care who seconds it. I will say this, I open the floor to everyone, and I'm going to have my say first on this motion to table. What?
There's no, you just have a
Oh.
vote. You just have a vote on a motion to table. I don't think
Alright.
it's debatable.
I'm looking here, I didn't, oh, you were ifs.
To lay on the table, requires a mover and a seconder, requires a majority vote, must not be debated,
Yeah, that's right.
considered immediately.
Okay, a motion on the floor to table. So there's no debate, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Nay. Please record that. So that motion that's on the floor is tabled until the next regular September.
I think September 5th was the motion. So that will be a committee of the whole, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So point of process, Madam CEO. So if that goes to a committee of the whole, there can be no decision made on that because that would only be a recommendation to regular council, correct?
It would be a recommendation, correct?
So a motion was originally made on this to put that street light up. So wouldn't that be going directly to the regular council meeting? I don't think it goes to the committee of the whole.
Well, the motion is being made in a council meeting, but the motion to table was to table to committee of the whole, and that was unanimously passed by council, which moves that motion to committee of the whole on September 5th.
And then another motion I was going to make is to ask staff to
Just, I'm just getting this clear in my head.
No, I understand, Mr. Chair, what you're asking, but the motion to table it was to table it to September 5th, and that was passed. So that means that motion is...
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
that's correct. It was
Yeah.
made September the 5th, so that means it's the committee of the whole.
Right.
Typically, when you table a motion on a regular council meeting, it goes to the next regular council meeting. It typically does not go back to a committee of the whole, which was the motion because it was the 5th, correct? You understand where I'm coming from?
I do, but I don't think an assumption can be made that laying a motion on the table automatically goes somewhere else. There does have to be specifics around the motion to lay it on the table.
Yeah, but there
Yes.
was a specific date that was mentioned,
Yes.
so I'm going to have to take it at,
Yep.
okay, I'm fine with that. Counselor Hurlbert, I do know that you indicated you wanted to speak. Your microphone is on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for me, it was, if we're talking around this table and we're at a council meeting where we make final decisions, it only made sense for it to go to committee of the whole so that we can have this discussion when we have all of the information. That was my thought process for there. So the next motion will be to ask staff to bring back all the information they have regarding this topic for our committee of the whole meeting in September. So then we can have a fulsome discussion with all of the information available.
So you made that a motion, correct?
Yes.
So motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Discussion? Councillor, you turned off your mic, but I turned it on. Deputy Warden Trevor
Yeah,
Cunningham.
I agree generally with that, but I would like to add an amendment that there be an opinion or recommendation from staff based on the policy along with the additional information.
Okay, amendment on the main motion. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion on the amendment on the main motion? I will say this. As far as I'm concerned, a federally placed mailbox by a federal corporation should be taken care of, and all the safety concerns should be taken care of by that federal authority that operates those mailboxes. This has been a bone of my contention for years and years. They've been setting these community mailboxes in places and not taking care of them. I do realize that some of that information that probably the CAO is going to be bringing back is going to include what the responsibilities of Canada Post are. As far as I'm concerned, this is a responsibility of the federal government and Canada Post, and it should not be superseding any of our policies, nor should we be using municipal taxpayers' money to light up a federal mailbox. That's the only thing I'm going to say about this. Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't even know what we can and can't talk about because we tabled a motion specific to this. So Canada Post does not light mailboxes. When this was brought up in May with a request for it to be brought back to council with an assessment, that never happened. I approached it this week. I got an email that said the issues with the policy. I do not believe the policy to have issues. Canada Post won't put up the light. You know, our residents have very few options on how to address the safety concern. So this is the best option to address that safety concern. And so I'm happy that it's tabled and we can bring more information back to the table. But at the end of the day, it is about the safety of residents. And
Yes.
this is the option they have.
Yes, Councillor, but there is a motion on the floor for staff to bring back information. I think we're back on the main
In an
motion.
opinion,
No, there's an amendment that hasn't been voted.
yeah.
Yeah, the amendment's not
in-
voted on.
No, the amendment's not voted on, correct?
In specific to the amendment to bring back the opinion, in this case, I'm voting no to it because this is about the policy and the information to be provided related to Canada Post and all that stuff, where we can make an informed decision on what needs to be done here to protect the citizens, our residents.
Thank you. Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Well, Councillor Hilton has made some good points here, but in my district, we have 2 community mailboxes that have no lights over them either. So
Yeah.
in saying that, we could probably ask the municipality to do the same thing in my district.
Just a reminder to
If
everyone
that's
that
the
the
case.
comments should be on the amendment on the motion.
Okay.
To include. Yeah, staff opinion. Any more discussion on the amendment on the main motion? Deputy Warden?
For clarity's sake, I think the amendment on the motion makes sense, and I made it because it asks staff to, in addition to bringing more information, to have an opinion, make a recommendation to council based on the policy. And the policy we make and we follow. So, again, if the policy doesn't permit the light being there, it shouldn't be there. If we want to change the policy at some juncture, we could change the policy, and we'd have those, potentially have those lights installed in a whole bunch of locations, so, which there's a cost to that, there's issues with that. It's a federal piece of property and not municipal property, and so anyway, we'll let staff do their work. I think that the amendment directs staff to do that work and give us an opinion based on the policy. Thanks.
Okay, is there any more discussion on the amendment on the main motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Nay. A vote of 4 to 3, motion is carried. Back to the main motion. Any more discussion on the main motion? Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you. I will repeat what I said, that there's a safety concern in Bunkers Island, I recognize that, but I have 2 community mailboxes in my district that do not have lights on them either, and I'm sure there's other community mailboxes throughout the municipality that are not lit either. I've certainly brought information to Canada Post at our FCM in Halifax one time about that, and not only the light, but just the way they're not looked after properly and whatnot, and they said they're going to get back to me, and they did, and they said, it's not our responsibility to do anything there, we get them there and that's it, so, thank you.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I kind of echo Councillor Cushing's comments. You should be in support of this if we're identifying safety issues in our community and addressing those issues through the policy that we have, because I still strongly believe the policy allows this. So I look forward to the comments and the information that come back. If it does identify that there's multiple mailboxes in the community that are on the sides of roads that are heavily trafficked by our residents and traffic, and it does so in the right way that it fits in the policy, then you should be able to fill out an application or make a motion to have that light. So again, I was happy that the motion got tabled and not voted down so that we can all be more informed on it. But I still stand by the original motion.
Okay, any more discussion on the main motion on the floor? Councillor Allen?
Just a reminder of what the main motion on the floor is to me, please. Is it the motion, is it just is the tabling motion?
No, it's the
The,
recording secretary?
yeah, the amended motion, as I heard, was for staff to provide a briefing regarding Bunkers Island that included a recommendation on adding a street light near the mailboxes pursuant to the policy.
What I stated earlier stands. I don't think we should be divulging into that. If we want to change the policy, that's the way we go about it. Question being called on the main motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Nay. Vote 6 to 1, motion's carried. Thank you, council. Sorry for the confusion. All right, item number 12, new business, 12.1, second reading of the Commercial District Development Investment Bylaw. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the public hearing this evening indicated that there were no public comments received either verbally or in writing, either for or in favor of the amendments. And just a reminder, the amendment brings in more opportunity for commercial property owners to take advantage of this tax relief incentive from the municipality of Yarmouth by including land in the South Ohio area that was not previously included.
Councilor Durkee.
I'll move that we approve second reading of the Commercial District Development Investment Bylaw.
Okay, a motion on the floor to have a seconder, seconded by Councilor Lauren Cushing. Discussion?
Yes.
Councillor Durkee, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually really excited and happy to see that we are moving forward with this. In fact, because I was the one who actually brought up the Commercial Development District investment bylaw many years ago, at some point, and which got started, and I think that it's really helpful to attract business to our area. So I totally support this. Thanks.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Deputy Warden, can you take the chair for this next item?
Boudreau?
Yes, 12-2.
So council, we're moving on to 11.2.
12.2, Mr. Chair.
12.2. I had my pen on the 12, but I was reading 11. I don't know why. Anyway, 12.2, G. Boudreau and Friends Cancer Fund. Councillor Hilton, you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. During CFest, the Gilles Boudreau and Friends Cancer Fund does a lobster boil on the waterfront. And I was able to attend this year. For many of you that don't know, just share a little bit of information. It was the Gilles Boudreau and Friends Cancer Help Fund was founded in 2009 in memory of Gilles Boudreau, who died of cancer. The fund helps assist Yarmouth County residents with travel costs for cancer-related appointments outside of Yarmouth. This could be hematology, urology, gynecology, pediatric cancers. That would be the majority of what people apply for funds for. And this is for funds to help them get to Halifax and Kentville. Other appointments may include radiation, PET scans, surgery, oncology, specialized visits, chemotherapy, lymphedema clinics. So it's very obvious that the fund is available to all residents of Yarmouth in their time of need. An increase in individuals accessing the fund is noticeable each year. In 2023, they had 140 Yarmouth residents, individuals receiving assistance totaling $106,500. 94 of them were newly diagnosed in 2023. 46 were continuing their treatment. They offered two main fundraisers, the lobster boil during Seafest and Facebook auction and roast beef supper in the fall. So the conversation I had with their team was due to the increased costs of running those fundraisers. And I would like to make a motion that we spend or provide $1,000 from our grant contingency fund to support, to actually be a sponsor of the roast beef supper this fall. It would be a co-sponsor with Tusket Toyota, and this is to help cover the inflating cost of the food for the event.
Okay, Councillor Hilton moves. Councillor Question.
Thank
You
you,
need a
Deputy Warden.
seconder.
Need a seconder, yeah, I'm assuming
Oh,
that he's
no.
going to second? Do
No.
we have a seconder? Yeah, okay, Patty Durkee seconds, Councillor Durkee seconds. Councillor Cushing, had a comment?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I certainly know about the Gilles Boudreau Foundation. I remember when Gilles Boudreau was still alive and whatnot and going through this. Ever since that foundation's been founded, we have attended every roast beef supper and every lobster boil they've had for raising money. The only time I missed was last year, and I had a good reason for not attending it last year. But it's a very good foundation. They certainly help a lot of people, and it's a great thing to have. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cushing. Any additional, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We all know that cancer affects our communities, and the Gilles Boudreau Foundation has been doing great things for a lot of years. And I appreciate what Counselor Hilton is doing in bringing this forward. But I'm going to go back to, we just went through this with the other thing. There is a process. I would be more than happy to support this. I would just like, because essentially right now, we don't have an application from the Gilles Boudreau, we have an application from Counselor Hilton. And if Gilles Boudreau Foundation would send us a request, I would be more than happy to sit here and say yes. But we have a policy around how we do our grants. We keep jumping off of these policies, and I don't agree with that. So, unfortunately, I will vote no to Counselor Hilton's ask for the Gilles Boudreau Foundation $1,000 out of grant contingency, unless to Counselor Hilton, if we don't do it out of a grant, but as a sponsorship, I would think we would have to have been approached. So, you know, if Gilles Boudreau would like to approach, I'm more than happy to support. So, I mean, I think it looks great on you, Nick, to ask, and you're going to say, well, what's the difference? There is a difference. We do have policy. We run things by policy. We govern by policy. I think it looks great to ask for it, and I think it's a great cause, and it's only a matter of you reaching out and saying, hey, just send in an application and we support it. It's just paperwork, and I get it. But we've got to have some kind of system that works.
Thank you, Counselor.
I have the right to respond?
Sure, you can respond, yeah.
Thank you.
To the question, certainly, yeah.
Mr. Chair, and through you to Councillor Allen, we just spent $3,500 on an ask that never came through the grant contingency fund without an application. This is specifically what this grant contingency is for. I approached the Gilles Boudreau Fund. They did not know that they were eligible to apply, so I offered to bring it to the table. I do have a letter that I can submit that talks about their request. It's not a traditional ask, but it is well within the purview of this council to make that decision. So if you want to say no, every councillor has that right, but don't. It's not outside of policy to do that. We just spent $3,500 on supporting our veterans by placing a plaque in each community hall. That did not come through the grants process.
Mr. Chair, I got to declare a conflict of interest in this, where I was a recipient of the Gilles Boudreau Cancer Fund.
Certainly, Warden, yeah.
Because that would benefit something that I benefited from for sickness that I had, so my apologies. I should have stepped away earlier.
No worries. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Allen.
Our mics are both on.
Oh, wow.
No, she was.
That's magic. I've never seen that happen
Duel
before.
it out.
Councillor Hurlbert.
Never going to live that one down, am I? Through, Mr. Chair, through you to the CAO, while I do agree that I would support in principle the money, but I do also agree with Councillor Allen's process. Through you to the CAO, what is our best option here? Can we do what Nick is asking, and if that's fine, then that's great, but is it better to go through the application process to make it clean? Because Nick's Councillor Hilton's comment about, you know, the veterans didn't go through the normal grant application, so just some clarity, please. Sure.
So the nuance around the precedent that Councillor Hilton is referring to is the fact that the group came to council and made an ask. And so it is within council's purview to entertain an ask. And so I think, Mr. Chair, what I heard Councillor Hilton say was there is a letter that could be entered into the record. So my recommendation for council, in order to honor the good work as well as your policies and your procedures, is to perhaps amend the motion that the grant be approved pending receiving a presentation and a request from the foundation.
I'll make that amendment.
Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Do we have a seconder to amend? Yes, Councillor Question. Any additional comment on the amendment? Oh.
Right here.
Yeah. Councillor Hilton?
I guess my question, what is the purpose of the presentation? We know what this committee does. We know that they offer a roast beef supper. We know that it's a $1,000 ask for sponsorship. What is the purpose of the presentation? We weren't asking for. Yes, she said presentation.
No, I said presentation and letter. I guess, Mr. Hilton, you know, with respect, you've had the opportunity to have a conversation with the group. The rest of council hasn't. So I'm not trying to be argumentative or combative. I'm trying to make a way that aligns with precedent and policy that makes all of council comfortable.
So I guess at the end of the day, is Chair, we've got a mover and a second on the amendment. I guess the conversation should be focused on whether we're going to vote individually for or against the amendment. Either way, the folks get their money, and the process is I guess honored, in my view, with the amendment. I think it works, and I think it keeps, to Councillor Allen's point, I think it keeps our processes a little bit in play and in place, and still honors the good work that that organization does. But that's my comment, so I'll move over to Councillor Durkee, I think. No, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, Nick didn't present that he had a letter when he presented this at first. He did not present until it was questioned about this, and then if he'd have presented the letter at the start, I wouldn't even have argued. Like, I know what the group does. I don't need a presentation, but because for me, as part of the process, all I would need was an ask. I didn't feel comfortable with Nick asking for it without something from the group. So I'm just trying to be clear here. If the group had asked, I'm more than happy to go into the contingency. But I don't feel that the ask should come from Councillor Hilton. So me personally, I don't need a presentation because I know what the group does. The community knows what the group does. All I was looking for is an ask from the actual group. But if Councillor Hilton has a letter with an ask on it, that satisfies I just don't feel as a councillor that we should be coming with the ask from us.
So just for clarity's sake, as Chair, who moved and who seconded? And you seconded, Councillor Hilton? Councillor Cushion, sorry. So, and I don't really, the friendly amendment piece, but it's not a big piece of business. It's $1,000. So, do you want to take the presentation out and just have, right? So that's one thing. Is that okay with you, Councillor Hilton? Councillor Cushion, I keep on calling you Councillor Hilton. Is that okay for you, with you as the seconder to take? So it's just, and I guess the second thing is, are we feeling that the letter that, even though we haven't seen it, that Councillor Hilton has, do you want to read it? Yeah, sure, that might be helpful. That might be helpful. Yes, Councillor Hilton. Yeah.
So I received this August 7th at 9:08. Oh, sorry, that's when I emailed it to myself. She Facebooked me the message last night, and I read everything, including what they do, who they service, the number of people that they helped this year. And the bottom line says the increased cost of food and supplies to put on the event each year, as the event such as the roast beef supper, November 16th, is the reason we are asking for sponsorship, along with Tuscan Toyota, which I did mention, who will be providing $1,000. In 2023, our costs, supply costs, was over $2,000. So thank you for your consideration. So co-sponsor would have been $1,000, the same as Tuscan Toyota.
Okay, so that's a second. So now that that's been read, Councillor Hurlbert, yes.
So, Mr. Chair, the letter does need to be received by the municipality, like
Right.
on letterhead, and I know they have letterhead because they've submitted requests to 100 women, which I participate in. So there does need to be
So it would be-
documentation
we'd
received
have approval
following council's.
pending receipt from the organization by the municipality. Okay. So we've got So my understanding of the amendment would be upon receipt of a letter from Jill Boudreau, the Jill Boudreau organization, that we grant the $1,000 grant. Is that agreeable with everybody? Does that sound reasonable? Councillor Durkee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our CAO. Have we not made donations to organizations that, without letters? Like someone has come forward and we've decided like the 100 meals. Like, have we not done that in the past where someone has?
But they always gave presentations or, but in any event, as chair,
Point
what
of
I.
order,
No, no,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I've asked through you to our CAO, sorry, for her response and other, yes, if we've done that in the past, where
So,
someone
Miss-
has just asked for a donation to an organization.
So, Mr. Chair, the participation in 100 Meals, which is the example that Councillor Durkee gave, if memory serves correctly, because this is all on the fly, the first year, the municipality offered a meal, served a meal, and paid for the meal themselves. And then, following that, we did some research on food security and access to food supports in the municipality, and we didn't move again through that. And there have been supports for events that have gone through the advertising budget, but we've always received a request to advertise in event XYZ. So there's always been some sort of documented request. Sometimes it comes through the council table, sometimes it comes in through traditional means like email or regular letters.
Right. And so I think, are you finished, Councillor Durkee?
So, no, I'm not. So we do have a request coming through a councillor in writing. All we're doing is, by asking them to postpone it, is delaying the inevitable when we do have a letter saying they're asking. So, I mean, I'm not sure why
No,
it would have to, excuse me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it would have to be on specific letterhead. If it's coming directly from their member of the board.
I think, this is a matter, as chair, of process and procedure, and can we do this? Could we vote for this? Probably yes. We could give the CAO direction, but I think it's bad practice for an individual councillor, truthfully, to be bringing something to the table, not disclosing that there's a letter. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that you're doing it. I'm just saying we've spent a half an hour on this item that had it been handled properly and, had you gotten in touch with the CAO and said, hey, this is, or the chair, in advance, this is what I'm looking at doing, it could be done better. So what we've got is we've got a motion on the floor. We could debate this forever. We've got a motion on the floor to approve the money pending receipt from the organization of the letter. And the letter hasn't been circulated to any of the councillors tonight. It's not in my possession. It's been read out, thank you. But we've got the motion on the floor, so I think we either vote yay or nay on that, and we move on.
Mr. Chair, we have to vote on the amendment, Mr. Chair, and then the main motion.
The amendment. Okay, so let's vote on the amendment, and could we have that read back, please?
If you could just turn her microphone on, please, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
is ridiculous.
Didn't do it?
No.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go. The amendment to the motion, as I heard, was that the $1,000 grant be approved based on receiving a letter from the Jill Boudreau and Friends Cancer Fund.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. In the original motion, main motion?
I haven't quite finished typing it out yet.
Okay, no,
So
take your
Just bear
time.
with me for 1 second. The amended motion is to provide $1,000 from the 24-25 contingency fund to sponsor the roast beef supper this fall for the Jill Boudreau and Friend Cancer Fund based on receiving a letter.
Is the grant contingency.
Is,
There are two contingency funds. It's the grant
yes, the
contingency.
grant contingency, sorry, I missed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any additional conversation on the main motion? Being none further, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, council. I'll turn the chair back to our warden. Thank you.
Bring the clocks out. It's gonna be a late night.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. If anyone noticed, thank you, Deputy Warden. If anyone noticed that I come and sat down at the Deputy Warden's seat, I declared a conflict of interest because I was a recipient from the Gilles Boudreau Cancer Foundation. So that's the reason why I stepped away and did not vote on the motion on the floor, just for everyone's clarity. Item 12.3, Canada Summer Jobs Ferry Terminal. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. There you go. You're on the floor. You have the floor, sorry.
Yes, I recently, somebody was discussing the customs jobs that used to exist at the Yarmouth Ferry Terminal for younger people. And there was some confusion. Some folks thought they were still there, and I checked, and they're not. So there are no younger people, youth, sort of university-age students working there. And I said, gosh, that's a real shame. I did a little investigation, and the only place that those types of folks are employed, those youth, is at the Halifax Airport. So I'm going to move, given that we write Customs and Borders Agency and copy our MP and our Premier, just, asking them when there's an opportunity, if they could review that with the possibility and increased ridership and that type of thing, to reinstating the hiring of youth in Yarmouth and in the customs area.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Any discussion on that? Councillor Lauren Cushion, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you, Deputy Cunningham, for bringing that up. I'm looking around the table here, and I don't think there's anybody that can remember back in the day when there was a couple of ferries running to Yarmouth from the, well, maybe Councillor Durkee. I didn't want to, but anyway, but they always had students working there. And I knew a number of them, right? So I just assumed that they was doing that again. So I think it's a worthwhile letter to be written to our MP and our Premier. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Deputy Warden.
Just, it's also to the agency, the federal agency, yeah.
Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. I see a bunch of councillors getting up. We're getting antsy. I'd prefer someone make a motion for a 5-minute recess. Moved by Councillor Nick Hilton, seconded by Councillor Danny Allen. Motion for a 5-minute recess. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 12.4. Please forgive my mispronunciation, Councillor Hilton. Is it Fort Lumeron? Lomeron. Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to just indulge me for a second, not that you haven't been already tonight. Recently, I attended a presentation in Melbourne by a local resident, Todd Muse. The topic was Fort Lomeron. For Todd, the story started over 20 years ago when his father shared with him a historical tale about a long-lost fort in the area. The story was shared with his dad by Father Clarence D'Entremont, and probably shared by a few others along the way as the story started in the 1600s. I've lived in Yarmouth my entire life, and I've never heard of the name Fort Lomeron until Todd shared it with me. Founded in 1963, Pubnico, Nova Scotia is the oldest continuously settled Acadian community in Nova Scotia. However, activities and settlements in support of fishing and fur trade brought Europeans back to these shores, predating Pubnico by about 50 years. As the story goes, Fort Lomeron was a fishing and fur trading post believed to be in modern-day Chebogue. From as early as 1614, David Lomeron in France was coming to Acadia acting as an agent in the fishing and fur trade business. He was connected with Charles Binecourt, a name you may recognize if you have visited Port Royal. By 1618, Port Royal had fallen into disrepair, and Binecourt is reported to have moved his operations to modern-day Chebogue. The name David Lomeron may be new to you, but I'm sure the name Samuel de Champlain rings a bell. Champlain made the first accurate map of the Bay of Fundy, southwest Nova Scotia, and New England in 1607. The Chebogue River is believed to appear on Champlain's 1607 map, and there is some pictures up here. If I would have known I had this access, I would have shared with you the maps that you can see in the background of Todd's photo. Today, the fort would have been located directly behind Anthony's greenhouses on the Chebogue Road. In preparation for the Acadian Congrès, Todd was able to secure funding for a storyboard that now, I'll put it back on, that now stands near Town Point Cemetery. This location was chosen, as you can see, several historical sites from that viewpoint. For Todd, the storyboard was a significant step in sharing this piece of history. If you get a chance to attend the presentation, which can include a kayak ride of the river, you will see Todd's passion and dedication on display. All of this is a combination of thousands of hours of him and his family researching and metal detecting. They found old foundations, thousands of antique nails and coins, pottery, and more. My favorite item seen on the screen right now is an antique Freemason's ring that showed shows double-headed eagles with a diamond set in the middle. I tried to remember what it meant, but either way, it was really interesting. Todd will tell you his favorite thing about the entire story is how it has evolved. He will also tell you that he's far from done. He told me his future plans are to have the story and the locations along the Chebogue River acknowledged as historical sites and their finds displayed at the museum. He would like to do ground-penetrating radar to see if there's even more that he hasn't found. He would like to do a project with Modi and Ducks Unlimited to create a walking trail to one of the storied locations. In closing, I'd like to just make a motion that we write Todd and his family a letter thanking him for his dedication to the community and to preserving the history, this history for all the residents of Yarmouth.
Your motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Allen. Councillor Hilton, you still have the floor? Discussion?
No, thank you for letting me read that, even though I didn't warn you. It was an amazing presentation by Todd. He's been talking to me about this for several years now. And he, if you know the work that he does through the town for the parks and areas in town, you'll know that he doesn't do anything without giving it his best. And this is no different. I truly encourage you. You'll see on Facebook advertisements like this for the tour. I was only able to go to the presentation section of it, which was totally worth it. And he's hoping to share this story with as many people as he can. So I encourage you all to attend, and thank you for making the second in the motion.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Nick, for bringing this in. I'm like Nick, I've talked to Todd numerous times about this, and he is excited. The last time I talked to him as he was the first time I talked to him. Like it's a part of his life. The story is amazing. I'm not going to amend any more motions, but after we make the motion, and I think it'll be supported to send his family, I really think we should reach out to Todd and actually have him come in. I've asked him numerous times to come in to try and make arrangements to get him in to do the presentation. It would take a little bit more time than 20 minutes. But I think it would be nice if, I don't know if we have a chance to get him in before this term is done or not, but it would be nice to have him come in. Doesn't matter whether it's this term or next term, council should know that this is in our community. And it doesn't matter who's sitting at council. I think it would be I think reaching out to Todd to have him do a presentation. And maybe he may decline, but it would be nice if he would come in. So anyways, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to you both. I have had conversations with Todd as well, and he is so passionate about this. We have so much history in Yarmouth County that the more things that we have to share, the more people will love coming here. And that's all part of not just the local community, but the tourist community as well, because we know when people travel, they want to learn the history of the place. So I would love to hear a presentation if Todd has time. Otherwise, I will attend. A friend of mine went and said it was absolutely fantastic. So just think about this. It was the 1600s. It's amazing. And, you know, when you go to all the museums here, just the history of this community, whether it be the Acadians or the Lebanese community or the Europeans who came here, whatever. It's just all contributed to make our community very special.
Question?
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thanks, and all great comments, and Todd, truly amazing work that he's put into it. And I was going to share another piece of information, and now I can't quite remember what it was. Like, he's got coins from even before the 1600s from Spanish galleons that he's found on different islands. Cook's Island, which I grew up visiting, we called the Ponderosa, was owned by the Cook's family. Now has been donated to the Ducks Unlimited. So one of his biggest concerns is that some of these historical sites would be lost when land was sold, but several of them have been preserved. So yeah, if you get a chance to visit the information sign in Town Point Cemetery or speak directly with Todd, he'll definitely share the story, and I guarantee it can't be done in 20 minutes. So hopefully he can condense it for us.
Look out, things are flying. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So further to Councillor Hilton's presentation on Todd Muse's work, I'd like to make a motion that staff reach out to Todd and see if we can maybe make arrangements to have him come do a presentation.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Patty Durkee. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Any more on that item? Item 12.5, application under policy R-002-03. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just very briefly and very quickly, this is a standard application for a reduction in taxes due to loss of value because of a fire. So it's in your package. The reduction is $1,009.74 on assessment account number 3958116.
Councillor Allen. Oh. Councillor Hurlbert.
I was going to make that motion, so moved.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Discussion? Deputy Warden?
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. The additional item, 12.6, Pleasant Valley Ball Field. Excuse me, Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and you guys aren't going to love this one. And to a couple points that were made earlier, we don't have a working session in June and July, or July and August. So it's not that this information is becoming to you last minute on purpose. I've actually reached out to the warden because this was in his area and had mentioned it to him. So I'm going to just share a couple details. Recently, I attended a ball game at the Pleasant Valley Ball Field, the only privately owned ball field in Yarmouth County. It's privately owned, but it's open to community residents, and it's supported by multiple community residents. It's home to an old-timers baseball league, children, and other ball teams that need to practice. It's a dog park. When it's a dog park on a regular basis. It's a safe place for active transportation and community needs. There is a small, tiny group of individuals that keep this going, keeping it open, keeping it mowed, keeping it up to par so that it can be used as a community spot. The landowner, Wayne Hurlbert, is one of them. A friend, Sam Gobian, a local resident, is another one. We have an active transportation plan in the works that identifies is going to identify specific areas in the community that need, that recognize the importance of active transportation. This is going to be one of them. I did hear from a member of recreation staff that said this is a needed infrastructure that we don't own, but supports community needs. If very few areas like this that are outside of town. So just 1 second. So we don't own the asset, but we have the ability to support the work that they're doing through the Parkland Dedication Fund. We don't want to own the asset, and we don't want to be involved in their work, but they are, like I said, I attended a ball game. One of the problems was lack of material in the infield. It was dangerous to the people that were there. One guy took a bad hop from a large rock that was in the infield, and it caught him right in the face. And there's notable potholes on the area. So through the Parkland Dedication Fund, we have the ability to support upgrades to our projects and other community projects. And I'd like to do that by supporting them in purchasing 1 load of infield dirt for them to distribute as part of their work to repair the infield and repair the dugouts at the facility, which would cost way more than the 1 load of dirt. So I'm going to make a motion that we provide up to $755, because that's the quote for 1 load of infield dirt through the Parkland Dedication Fund to support our community needs for active transportation.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Third and final, Councillor Patty Durkee. Motion on the floor. Discussion? Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I recall, when we did our grants, we put extra money in the contingency fund for situations like this. And we said, I believe that we said that people could apply and still be reviewed, even though it's not specifically at budget time. And so my recommendation for this is that because this is more of a grant type of thing than a donation, that I would recommend that the club, one of the clubs, apply through our grant program, and we look at that application when it comes in. Because I believe we said that people didn't have to wait because we had put extra money in.
Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarification, I don't believe this is a grant application ask or contingency fund ask. It's a Parkland dedication ask, because it's not a nonprofit organization. The Parkland Dedication Fund allows us to make specific investments in not-for-profit organizations or infrastructure, as long as it's a capital investment, which is exactly what this would be.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to Madam CAO, for clarification on parkland dedication funds and how we distribute them, do we require an application, or is this something that we can do?
I had no knowledge of this issue prior to the meeting tonight, and I have not done the research to understand exactly what's being asked and where it would fit in policy.
Deputy Warden.
I mean, when we started off council 4 years ago, there was some fulsome discussion about the agenda, and yes, we can add items, but I don't think the intention to add an item is to make financial decisions with no information. There's nothing been provided us in advance of the meeting, including the CAO. So I'd ask the mover and seconder withdraw the motion and work with our CAO to have the organization reach out to do a presentation and/or to do a request through the appropriate fund, because you know, that just this isn't a way to conduct business on this issue. Thank you.
Or council could do what they did to the last motion, make a motion to defer decision.
So I'll make the motion to table in a second if that's what's needed, but I guess I want to say that I feel like, what do I want to say, is that, like I said, there's no working sessions. We're in the last 2 months of council. This was an incident that happened, a safety incident that happened this month. We had the ability to do something about that. I feel like the Parkland Dedication Fund was different than the grant fund. It specifically says that municipal council we can allocate, I believe it says that we can allocate some of our funds as the way we see them as council. And some of it is for the community to apply for, but council can make decisions to spend some of it themselves. That's why I chose the Parkland Dedication Fund. Not every community group is big enough or wholesome enough to do the other way. So we as councilors go into the community, find issues, bring them to council and add them to the agenda and vote on them. That's how everything is done. And everything, some are letters and some are financial asks. So I will make a motion to table it to the next meeting. It delays it by a month. Maybe someone else loses a tooth, but it's not a big deal. I'll make the motion to table it until next month, and I'll provide some more information. But I'm not asking them to fill out a grant application, because I'm pretty sure the policy allows councilors to spend money in areas like wayfinding signs and other things on our own merit to make these motions. And that's exactly what I've done tonight, and you can support it or you cannot support it.
So councillor, did you make a motion to table?
I
And was there a
did.
specific time?
Yeah.
Next meeting, so that would be
Well, we might as well have it for discussion at September 5th,
September
Committee of the
5th.
Whole.
So there's a motion to table. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by councillor Patty Durkee. There's no discussion on that?
No, there's discussion.
No, there's no discussion.
No, I did say there's no discussion on that, so I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Vote is 6-1. Deputy Warden, would you like to have your name recorded?
It's not necessary.
Not necessary, thank you. Item 12.7, I'm sorry, I cannot read my writing. Yes, Premier's visit to the airport. Deputy Warden.
Right, for those of you that aren't aware, that are watching, the Premier visited Yarmouth on Sunday evening and mainly on Monday the 29th, and met with councillors at lunch at the town hall, and then later on he and a group of folks he met publicly with folks at the airport. So I'd like to, certainly thank the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation for hosting the Premier. And the reason I'm thanking them is that's a really good spot for the Premier to be at the airport, because that's a critical asset. We all know we own it, something we want to maintain. And I was very, very pleased by the Premier's comments, as were those that were in attendance. A number of councillors were there. And, he publicly stated that it was a real asset for the community, and certainly wants to engage the airport corporation in talking about, how the asset might be improved and utilized sort of moving forward. So those are very, very positive comments. And of course, we've got the life flights that are coming in there, and that's a fantastic thing, so we can transport patients. They don't have to bump over the roads to go to Halifax to receive critical care, obviously. And that does, another point to that is that does take a lot of ambulance time and gives it back to the local region. So somebody's not spending 3 hours or 4 or 5 hours driving up and driving back in an ambulance. It's not good for the patient, and takes away critically, takes away ambulance drivers from serving community. So that's all positive. But long story short is, I'd like to move that we write the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation to thank them for hosting the Premier, and to update us on any future conversations that they may have with the provincial government and or other levels of government about improving our airport.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Okay. Please note in the meeting minutes that Councillor Nick Hilton declared a conflict. Any discussion on that? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, you still have the floor.
No more discussion.
I think it's an excellent idea. It certainly opened up the Premier's eyes in my discussion with him. He said, well, who's the chair? I said, me. I said, I have a task force group that's going to come after you now. So I think it's a great idea. I thought I asked for a seconder. Getting long in the night. I think we'll have to watch that again to be sure, but Councillor Allen did second it. Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Deputy Warden, thank you, Mr. Warden, and to Deputy Warden Cunningham's mentioned about the life flight. I had an individual who worked for me for the last couple of years. He had to be airlifted to Halifax for some major operations, so it's certainly worth it. Unfortunately, he's alive and everything is going well, but he won't never be able to work again. So the life flight is very important.
Deputy Warden.
And my apologies if we could if we could copy Chris D'Entremont, Zach Churchill, Colton LeBlanc, the Mayor of Yarmouth, and the Warden of the District Municipality on that letter to the airport, the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation. That would be appreciated.
Consensus to do that by the mover and seconder? Yeah. Okay. It's just an addition of a few recipients. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 13, correspondence for action. 1311, correspondence from the commanding officer, RCMP Nova Scotia.
I'll be very brief, Mr. Chair. In your package, Council, is an invitation addressed to Warden Cunningham, but for all of Council, to attend a very important event being held by the RCMP, and that will be the public apology with respect to street checks. It's being held on September the 10th, 2024 at 1 p.m. at the North Preston Community Center. Everybody's welcome. Myself and the Deputy CAO will be attending, and Levinus Numfor, our EDIA officer, is working on putting together an event at this building to host a live streaming of the apology. So that's for all of council, and no RSVP is required. That's in your package for for action on your own part, individual part.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, item 13.1.2, letter to the mayor's warden CCBF.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this letter in your package is exceptional news. What I can tell you, what I know, so this is formally the gas tax fund. What I know about this is that the amount of the fund is higher than it was in the previous deal. However, the municipality of Yarmouth's share of the total pot is not as high as it was in the previous deal, because our growth rate was not the same as other municipalities in Nova Scotia. So where last year, for example, the municipality received a transfer payment of $515,000 under this program, this year it may be more, but it won't be the same share of the total pot. So it may be more dollars, but it may not be the same share. So let's say we got 0.5% of the previous pot, we will not get as much in terms of ratio in the new pot. But why I bring it to you for action is there's information that myself and the Director of Finance are not in possession of that's really important. So this fiscal year, this deal applies to, and we have no details on what the allotment will be when the municipality can expect to receive it. So what I'm looking for this evening is direction for myself and the Director of Finance to work with Municipal Affairs and Treasury on ascertaining the details as soon as possible.
Okay. So basically what the CEO is asking for, a motion to direct staff to do that work. Councillor Durkee?
I'll make that a motion.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Discussion on that, Councillor Durkee, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our CAO, does it look like to me that the use of these funds are for more specific items or situations or issues, as opposed to us being able to use it where we felt required?
So that is a piece of information that the municipalities in Nova Scotia are not in possession of, and it's important information. So when the gas tax fund was originally set up, it was very specific. I think in the very beginning, it was only for water and wastewater, and over the course of the program, the allowable categories expanded. I think Councillor Durkee, Mr. Chair, is onto something. I think that there's been a narrowing of the scope, and so that information is critical.
So I do have a question for you, Councillor Durkee, before you follow up with that. Was there any indication of that in the FCM about possibly restricting that for federal government? Is that the reason why your line of questioning is going where it's going?
Well, thank you for your question. No, I just noticed this includes projects related to, 4 different things. So it looked pretty specific. And yes, there was mention of that the CCBF fund would have restrictions as to how it could be used. I mean, I just think that I know we've used it for things like sidewalks in the past, and none of these things really relate to that type of thing. So I did hear that, yes, I did recall at FCM that was brought forward.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 13, you have, 13.2, you have for information, 4 pieces of correspondence for information. Item number 14, reports. We are running really late. I would entertain a motion to defer the report section to the next regular council meeting so we can combine them, where we're running real late today. So a motion on the floor to defer the report section to the next regular council meeting, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen, to move them forward to the next regular council. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We have public comments. Mr. Don Larkin. Could you come down and just hit the red button on on the microphone there? You have 3 minutes, Don. Thank you very much. Thank
I
you very
was
much.
looking for, let's see. You guys all took an oath here. Is it, I'd like to have a copy of your oaths that you took to be counselors here. And that's all I have to say. When can that happen, or will it happen?
Typically, we don't have answers to questions, but I can certainly give you the copy of the oath, Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there is a routine access to information policy, and this would be a piece of information that would
I
be...
can't hear you well.
It's a policy called routine access to information, and this would be a piece of information that would be routinely available to the public. So I can have my staff pull those and photocopy them and call you when they're ready.
Well, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, council, we have 7 items in camera. I need a motion to go into camera. Moved by Councillor Warren Cushion, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?